public comment with regard to the budget. Public comment had been set for a time certain of 10 o'clock, so recognizing that we have a quorum of the council present at 10 o'clock in the morning, Councilmember Vela is joining us virtually. I will now turn to the city clerk and ask if she will call people to speak. We will start with those who are calling in remotely, and each speaker will be given 2 minutes. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. No one has called in exactly yet, so we're going to go ahead and start with in person. We do have an interpreter here, so I'm going to ask that Leanne come to the front, and you will have 4 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody. ကျွန်တော်နာမည်ကတော့ Lai Ram Lian လို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
Okay, my name is Ram Lian.
ကျွန်တော်ကတော့ Del Valley District 2 မှာနေထိုင်သူဖြစ်ပါတယ်
I live in Del Valley District 2.
ကျွန်တော်ကတော့ဒီမှာ USA မှာ2009မှာဒုက္ခတဲ့အနေနဲ့ဒီမှာမိသားစုနဲ့ရောက်လာခြင်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်
I arrived to US in 2009 as a refugee with my family.
ကျွန်တော်မှာခုလောလောဆယ်ကလေး4ယောက်နဲ့နေထိုင်ပါတယ်
I have 4 kids.
ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်ကဒီအစိုးရကနဲ့တတ်မှတ်ပေးတဲ့အဲ့ဒီincome by loss guarantee အနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်များစွာဝန်တာပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီဝင်ငွေရချင်းအပေါ်ကျွန်တော်တို့မိသားစုအတွက်အထောက်အကူအများကြီးဖြစ်ပါတယ်လို့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်
Okay, I'm one of the recipients of the guarantee income pilot program, and I'm grateful for that. Me and my family together, and it has been really helpful for our family.
ကျွန်တော်တို့ကမိသားစုဝင်ငွေနေတဲ့လူတွေဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုတော့မိသားစုဝင်ငွေနဲ့ဒီ Austin ရဲ့အခြေအနေကဆက်လက်နေထိုင်ဖို့ကရုန်းကန်ဖို့ကအင်မတန်မှခက်ခဲပါတယ်
I'm one of the low-income family, and it's quite difficult here in Austin with the limited income.
အဓိကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ mortgage payment တွေရဲ့ပြီးတော့အခု property tax တွေလည်းအရန်တက်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့မိသားစုအနေနဲ့ပေးဖို့အခက်အခဲအများကြီးဖြစ်တဲ့အချိန်မှာဒီဝင်ငွေကကျွန်တော်တို့အဲ့ဒီပြဿနာတွေကိုဖြေရှင်းဖို့အများကြီးအထောက်အကူဖြစ်စေပါတယ်
Especially with the high mortgage payment and also the increase in the property taxes, this income has helped us a lot as a family, for our family.
ဆိုတော့ဒီဝင်ငွေရချင်းအဖြစ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရေခမိခတွေပြီးတော့ကလေးတွေရဲ့အပိုအတုံးစေးကြောင်းစေးအတွက်ပေါ့ပြီးတော့ပညာရေးအတွက်အဓိကအများကြီးအထောက်အကူဖြစ်စေပါတယ်
So this income helped us to pay for utility, electricity, water, and then also for my children to buy basic needs for them.
ပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီကျွန်တော်တို့ရရှိတဲ့ဝင်ငွေကဲ့သို့ဂျန်တဲ့မိသားစုတွေဝင်ငွေနေတဲ့လူတွေလည်းကျွန်တော်နီးတူထပ်တူရစေချင်ပါတယ်လို့
And I would like to advocate for other families too that might be facing similar situation like my family.
ဒီဝင်ငွေကိုဒီ budget ကိုလည်းနောက်နှစ်တွေအတွက်လည်းပြည်သူလူထုအတွက်ဝင်ငွေနေတဲ့လူတွေအတွက်လည်းဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ထားရှိစေချင်ပါတယ်
And I would like to request to extend this budget for the next year too for other family members too.
ခုလိုဒီ Austin အစိုးရကနေကျွန်တော်တို့ကိုခုလိုကူညီပြီးတော့ budget တွေထားရှိခြင်းအပေါ်ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်လို့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်
And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity and receiving this funding from the City of Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and return to remote speakers at this time. Bobby Levinsky.
Thank you, Mayor, Council members. This is Bobby Levinsky with the Savor Springs Alliance. I am speaking in favor of the Equity Actions Community Investment budget that Savor Springs is signed on as a member to that. We want to make sure that the budget is taking into account all the necessary resources to respond to climate change as well as climate equity. In addition to the bullet points you've already received on that, want to speak in favor of also additional staff resources for environmental review, especially reviewers associated with the Watershed Protection Department. They're responsible for doing a lot right now, and we definitely need more resources for them. In addition, we always are working on more ways to fund watershed protection lands. We look forward to continuing to work with council to explore more options there. And please feel free to reach out to us anytime you need us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Mimi Stiles.
Good morning, City Council. Mimi Stiles. I'm the president and founder of Measure, a longtime community activist within Austin. I'm here just urging the City Council and all Austinites to really take notice of this critical issue regarding the budget, and making sure too that the offices, the Equity Office and the Civil Rights Office, really don't lose their autonomy and authority. And I believe that it will truly hinder their ability to serve the community effectively. I just want to take a moment for us to remember the history of racism and injustice within the city and all of the work that we've done, and how really by preserving the independence of these offices is really the only way that we can move forward. To really continue to bring a just and equitable, sustainable Austin for all. This really, in my opinion, not only endangers the hard work and the progress that we've made, but it also poses an incredible threat to our community's health, our quality of life, I just really wanted to be able to share those words on behalf of Measure. Thank you.
Brian Oakes.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is Brian Oakes, the former Chief Equity Officer for the City of Austin. And I was calling in this morning to really express my concerns over the merger of the Equity Office along with Civil Rights Office and SMBR to create the new department, I believe that's called the Civic and Business Equity Department. I really hope that I'm not the last Chief Equity Officer for the City of Austin. One of the things that was most disturbing about this proposal is that the Chief Equity Officer position will be downgraded into a division manager. And as a division manager, it would be a non-executive position, and the Chief Equity Officer would really struggle to get access to other executives within the city. The Chief Equity Officer would no longer have access to directors' meetings, and these are sort of really critical internal pieces to really create the change that the city had a vision for when it established the office back in 2017. The other thing that I would encourage the mayor and council to do is to really lean on the research and the data. Back in 2016, the city required the services of the Government Alliance for Race and Equity to do a comprehensive study on how to structure and the position and equity office within the city to have the most impact. Through that process, the Government Alliance for Race and Equity, they interviewed over 40 community leaders and community stakeholders to get input. They also conducted 2 community-wide public town hall meetings to gather input, and they benchmarked that against 100 other jurisdictions that also were doing equity work to make the recommendations that it was essential to have an equity office that was independent, that reported directly to city leadership, and that could be connected to sort of power structures within the city to create change. And so I would also just say to end that this is the worst possible timing that we could do a merger like this.
Thank you, your speaker. Your time has expired.
Thank you, sir.
Mayuri.
Excuse me. Mayor, City Manager, do you think that we could get a copy of that study if it was sent through the system? Thank you.
I don't know. Mayuri Raja or Raha?
Hi, I'm Mayuri Raja. I have been in Austin since 2016. I'm a citizen in District 10, and I was also the co-chair for the Community Climate Plan, or the Climate Equity Plan that was put forth by the Sustainability Office in 2020 and 2021. I am here to speak against the current budget proposal. I am in favor of Equity Action's community budget proposal and the recommendations that they have suggested in there, such as aid for unhoused and low-income folks, resilience hubs for the city, and of course money for the Climate Equity Plan implementation. I specifically want to emphasize that I think the Office of Sustainability and Equity Office were able to carry out the Climate Equity Plan process because of their autonomy and the way that they can make recommendations to other city offices and departments on equal standing with those departments. I think folding them under another department and defunding them, taking away their authority in this way, will hinder their ability to carry out the Climate Equity Plan. And that plan did take input from over 200 people individually, as well as multiple businesses and climate advocacy groups in the city. I think a plan like that really does center the needs of the most affected, and it's important that we allow the Office of Sustainability and the Equity Office the ability to carry this plan out. So please reconsider the budget proposals, specifically moving the Equity Office under the Small and Minority Business Resource Department, and take a look at Equity Action's proposed budget instead. Thank you.
Jordan Middlebrooks.
Hello, my name is Jordan Middlebrooks. I live in District 4, and thank you for letting me speak today. I'm here to support the community investment budget proposed by Equity Action, along with all of the recommendations that Equity Action is making. And I am strongly against the proposed city budget by Interim City Manager Garza. One of the things that's the most disturbing to me about the budget as it's being proposed by Interim City Manager Garza is the fact that we are increasing our police budget despite the fact that in the past 2 local elections, the City of Austin voters have voted against increasing our police budget. This is showing to me that we're not listening to the people of Austin, and that there's clearly a disconnect between what the people in the City of Austin want, which is also reflected in the community investment budget, and that is clearly not what's being proposed in this back to the basics city budget being proposed by City Manager Garza. Instead, I would really like for us to start investing in actual root cause solutions, which were being reflected by having budget set aside for housing, by having budget set aside to mitigate the impacts of being displaced. If we do not continue to fund these services, we will not be able to solve them through additional policing. We will not be able to solve them through this back to the basics program that's being proposed by Mayor Watson and City Manager Garza. So I would really encourage us to think about what are the root causes and how does our budget reflect how we're going to protect and actually increase our public safety, because policing is not the answer to that. The fact that a gun was pulled on a 10-year-old child just recently reflects that. And so I would really encourage us to not move forward with the budget proposed by City Manager Garza, and also to keep the police budget where it's at, reflected in the 2023 budget, because as soon as we increase that, it's only, we cannot decrease it any further.
Thank you.
Cedar Sexton.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm here to speak against the reorganization of the Equity Office and Civil Rights Office. My name is Cedar. I'm a resident of District 3. I'm going to start with some questions I want everyone to really think about. Are you for democracy? Do you know what having a racial equity lens means? Do you know why people are poor? Do you care about Austin's working poor, Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, and white communities that have been severely harmed by decisions made on the SIAs? And on what data or national best practices is it recommended to merge these offices? There's been no communication with the Equity Office on this reorganization, and there has been no communication with the community organizations and community members that the Equity Office has relationships with to make sure that we're being accountable to the direction that they've deemed important in undoing harmful outcomes for their lives. Communities that organized, and out of that organizing, the Equity Office was created. The purpose of the Equity Office is to be a lever of accountability for Austin's historically underserved, marginalized, and most negatively impacted communities. An autonomous city entity that could hold city departments, projects, and even this council accountable for harm that has been done and continues to be done to communities of color. It was born out of true communication, conversation, sweat, blood, tears, and time that organizations like Communities of Color United, AUGO, Mamatana, Poder, and others fought to bring to fruition. The Equity Office focuses on repairing the historical damage that the 1928 Master Plan and subsequent city plans did to Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and Asian communities here in Austin. Damage that was done based on race. And to fix that, we have to focus on making sure that we're making equitable decisions across city departments that bring to light embedded obstacles that create disparate and disproportionate outcomes for Black, Latinx, Indigenous, and Asian communities. And that also includes all of the intersectionality.
Your time has
sexual
expired.
orientation.
Jay Popham.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this proposed budget. I'm a resident of District 2 and a member of Austin BSA. We were involved this spring in the organizing around the Austin Police Oversight Act. And among the many fine points made by the other speakers this morning, I just wanted to point out that this was a victory won by the voters of Austin for transparency and oversight. And the proposed reorganization of the Police Oversight Office would negatively impact the express will of the voters. I hope you'll reconsider this budget. I think there are a lot of things that are deficient about it. I appreciate the 4% raise for city workers. I think that's a great place to start. But we're talking about long-term investments here in Austin's future. And I think this is a short-term vision provided by an interim city council member, city manager. I apologize. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Robin Orlowski.
My name is Robin Orlowski. I'm a resident of District 10. I'm a former member of the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities, and I was the representative on the Joint Inclusion Committee for that commission. I'm in favor of the merger with the modification that because Austin contains 20% of the state of Texas's deaf population, that the ADA program, which is added. ADA is a civil rights law, and initially people of all ethnicities could not get access to public schools until the 1970s. The Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired was originally established as an asylum, and all the other facilities they weren't places people voluntarily went. You couldn't educate people in your own city, live with your own family. I understand this is a different change, but it's needed. The Equity Office did not understand Austin's history. It's a point of privilege to say discrimination and segregation started in the 1920s when children were forcibly brought here and couldn't live in their own communities across the state. That negates Austin's history, starting in 1856, and calling it a school today doesn't erase the fact that these were asylums that people had to live in because of disability. It's not responsible. It's not ethical to ignore this. And people need to understand the city's history, not what makes them or the council members or their staff feel good.
Thank you.
Enough is enough.
Joyce James. Joyce James, please unmute. Okay, we'll try again. Anthony Pandolfino.
Good morning, Council. I'm a concerned citizen speaking today against the proposed CIB and in favor of reallocating resources away from the police budget and toward other first responders such as the EMTs and integral care MCOTs. One of the main reasons that, in addition to what others have said about needing to address the root problems such as poverty, lack of social services and mental health services, I believe one of the main reasons is the way that police respond to crisis events. They're not well-trained mental health professionals, and their methods are not suitable when dealing with individuals in crisis. They often just further traumatize individuals and get them ensnared in the prison industrial complex instead of responding to their medical or mental health needs. So instead, we should prioritize the expansion of Integral Care's MCOT, Mobile Crisis Outreach Team. They are highly skilled professionals who possess real knowledge and expertise in handling these crisis situations with sensitivity and compassion, and they're equipped to address the root causes of crises and provide appropriate support to individuals in distress. We should also look to divert more resources to our EMTs, who provide a critical role in our community's well-being, as they are woefully underpaid and have issues of retention and understaffing. If we support and improve the wages of EMTs, we can ensure they have the resources they need to respond promptly and efficiently to medical emergencies, and this will undoubtedly save lives and enhance the overall quality of care during critical situations in our city. So, our city where we want everyone to feel safe, supported, and respected, and we can take steps toward achieving that vision by reallocating funds from our police budget towards EMTs and integral care MCOTs. Thank you.
Pat Weistreyes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Pat Weistreyes, and I am a resident of District 3. I am also a spay-neuter advocate, and I'm here to express my disappointment that once again the city budget does not have increased funding for spay-neuter, especially in light of the fact that for the last 3 years, funding allocated for spay-neuter was not spent, and as a result, returned to the general fund. Please consider looking into the amount of funding for spay-neuter needed to get caught up with the amount that was not spent in the last 3 years. The 2024 budget should have the amount of money that was allocated in the last 3 years and not spent so that we can get caught up. Councilmember Vela, I heard you ask a question about spay-neuter at the last budget presentation. Thank you so much for asking that question. I hope that you will advocate for the increased funding that I have requested, because I really think that supporting spay-neuter should involve getting us caught up with the amount of money we should be spending. Councilmember Harper Madison, thank you for also asking a question about animal services during the budget presentation. I hope you will also support increased funding for spay-neuter, because the question you asked was about the kennels, and there's not enough money in the city budget to build all the kennels that will be needed if we don't have adequate funding for spay-neuter. Low-income residents cannot afford the huge amount of money it costs to spay-neuter their animals. But as we've seen in the past, adequate funding when the services are provided will result in low-income residents stepping up and getting their pets spayed and neutered, which will hopefully address the overpopulation crisis that we're having, as well as the overcrowded shelter that is causing a lot of problems. Thank you for considering this request.
Thank you. Joyce James. Joyce James, please unmute. Okay, we will try to call this caller one more time, but that concludes all the remote speakers we have in queue, so I'll go ahead and transition over to in-person.
Thank you.
I'm going to call 3 names at a time, and once you hear your name called, please come down to the podium and state your name. Scott Cobb, Kaiba White, Seneca Savoy. If I've called your name, please come down closer to the podium.
What would be great is if she calls your name and you're on deck, if you'd come down and sit here on this front row. That way, respectfully for the speakers that follow you, we'll be able to get to them in a quicker fashion. So please do that. Thank you, Mr. Cobb, for being here.
Hello, my name is Scott Cobb. I work as a lifeguard for the City of Austin. And I want to talk about a few issues. Number one, a couple of them were passed by the City Council last session, providing dental care for all temporary employees who already get health insurance through the city. Has not been implemented. There was a memo saying on September 26, 2022, HRD will include this benefit in the fiscal year 24 budget. So can someone check on that, please? Also, during the last session, in response to a question from Vanessa Fuentes, PARD committed, there's 4 beginning in fiscal year 2022-23. PARD plans to hire course participants and allow them to be on payroll while they attempt to complete their certifications, required training and onboarding to better mitigate staffing challenges experienced in previous years. They committed to paid training for lifeguards. They did not implement paid training for lifeguards. They implemented a substitute system amounting to $400 bonus if you work 80 hours. After you work 80 hours, you have to do the 40 hours, then another 80 hours. So you go 120 hours without getting paid for the paid training that you should have been paid. And then you only get half. You don't get the full amount. That doesn't happen anywhere else where you go to get a job. You get paid that first day you show up for work. So I'd ask someone to check and see if paid training is in the budget. Bilingual training stipends for lifeguards. We have many pools where there are lifeguards who have communications difficulties, speaking with the public, and it would help the public if we had more lifeguards who were getting bilingual stipend pay. It is currently not eligible for temporary employees. If you had 40,000, there are around 300,000 with staff hours in aquatics for lifeguards every year. Anyhow, bilingual pay and a $22 living wage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Cobb, did you complete all of your concerns? I just said, did you
Councilmember
complete?
Harvard Madison has a question.
Thank
for
you. Did you complete all of your concerns? This is really helpful information. Were you able to complete all of your concerns?
I have a hard time hearing.
Were you able to complete all of your concerns? Did you have any other concerns that we should know about?
Yeah, I have a few more.
If you wouldn't mind offering us the opportunity to hear the other two.
Can I go ahead and say them?
Please.
Okay. Well, you know, reaching the $22 living wage is something we should work on. Holiday pay is something that everyone in America who works in a job should get holiday pay. You could implement that at an incremental amount by 1 or 2 holidays, July 4th, Juneteenth. We work on those days without getting holiday pay, although our managers do. Affordable health insurance. A lot of lifeguards were qualified for health insurance before the pandemic, but PAR director did not enforce the COVID rules that were required by the mayor to wear a mask at work on city property. I got COVID at work. I now have to take 4 additional medications. If I lose my health insurance because I have underlying conditions, I'm going to be in trouble, as well as other temporary lifeguards. I have an educational savings plan proposal. Amazon has an agreement with ACC to waive tuition for some of their employees. I think the city of Austin could also waive tuition by making an agreement with ACC to waive certain amounts of tuition for city employees. Or you could have a savings plan similar to the retirement plan, whereas 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds have a payroll deduction of some percent, 10%, which is matched by city council, so that when they leave, you encourage them to remain lifeguards until they're 20 or 18. Then they go on to college. They have a savings plan.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. And if you have any additional, Max Lars is sitting right here. He'll take notes, and I'll make sure that we get that to all the council
All
members.
right, I appreciate the extra time.
Kaiba White, Seneca Savoy, and Eddie Franz.
Good morning. My name is Kaiba White. I work for Public Citizens Texas office, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to start by saying that I am very pleased to see that there is some additional funding and resources for implementation of the Austin Climate Equity Plan. That plan has been moving forward, but moving forward slowly, so those resources are very needed. And I will say that more will be needed next year and the following years. So it does give me a little bit of concern that so much additional resources is proposed for expanding the police department, especially when so many of the priorities in the community investment budget, which I think you've heard about from a couple other folks, are not included in the budget. So I encourage you all to take a look at the community investment budget, which should have been shared by Equity Action with you, but is supported by many organizations, including mine. On the, concern side, I'm very concerned about the proposed merging of the offices of sustainability, resilience, equity, and civil rights with other city departments. I don't think this proposal comes with any malice or ill intent. However, I do think that there would be significant negative side effects. These offices represent core priorities for this community, and as you've heard, come from a long stretch of engagement with the community to create these as independent offices. And their independence is critical, not least because they need to be able to work across all city offices and departments and put that work at the highest level of our city priorities. They need direct access to city management and not to have another layer of bureaucracy between the priorities that they are trying to bring to you and to the city manager. And that is what the effect of this change would be, is they would have to go through another department director to bring their issues of importance to your table. So I encourage you to respectfully reject that part of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seneca Savoy, and then Eddie Franz.
How y'all doing? My name is Seneca. I am a homeowner resident in District 4, and I work for Equity Action. I'd like to state that, in the, 5 years now that I've been coming to talk about various budget cycles, every year, this council has produced increasingly more progressive budgets with increasingly more aggressive investments in social services, in resiliency across the city. I think in particular, this city rose to the challenge during COVID in ways that saved, by back of the napkin estimates, probably around 2,000 to 5,000 lives in this city. Those investments were part of a process where community involvement and input increased every year. It's something that this council and this city should be proud of, right? The ability to collaborate and to put the needs of those most affected forward. I am sad to say that at least on my first reading of this budget, that we have decided to buck that trend this year. Both in terms of rolling back important priorities that we had done a great job in funding before, and by reducing the overall impact of community input on the shape of the budget. In particular, As I'm sure dozens more people are going to do today, and as Kaiba so accurately did before, the reorganization of the Equity Office and also moving human resources positions from civilian positions outside APD to inside it. Those movements decrease the overall transparency and accountability of those positions and also inflate the budget in such a way that it makes it less flexible over time. Right? Every cent that we move into that budget can't be moved back out. If we decide that we later want to put those positions somewhere other than inside of the police department, we have to pay them millions of dollars to do so.
Thank you, sir.
Eddie Franz.
Hello, my name is Eddie Franz, and I'm here representing ATX Peace Coalition. Would everybody from ATX Peace please stand up? Thank you so much. We can clap for that. So ATX Peace Coalition is a joint effort between Life Anew, Restorative Justice, and Jail to Jobs. We do CVI work, community violence intervention, and we do it here in this city. Although it's vastly underfunded, and that's why we're here today, we'd like you to consider putting in CVI as a budgetary concern. As Austin grows, which is amazing, and the city is an awesome place for people to live, but as it grows, so do the growing pains. One of those growing pains is community violence, gun violence, and homicides. We're on pace right now to hit 75 or 80 homicides in this city, and I know it's unacceptable to you as it is to me. There is a solution for that violence, and it is built within the communities. It is CVI. Life Anew and Jail to Jobs has gone all over this United States to speak with and get trained by some of the leading experts in the CVI field. St. Louis, Chicago, Baltimore, Stockton, Oakland, all have had 60% reductions in gun-related violence and homicides because of the CVI work. It's data-driven, it's proven to be accurate and successful, and we have been trained by it, and we are implementing it in city right now. I can tell you that over half a dozen retaliations have been stopped because of our two organizations utilizing CVI in this city just this year alone. And every homicide in this city costs the taxpayers $1.2 to $2 million. You add that up over the years, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in savings if we could get a fully funded CVI program here in Austin. The solution is here. We're available to talk about it. We would like to be reaching out to each one of your staff in your offices to discuss it in the next couple of days. If you'd be willing to make just a little bit of time with us, we have a plan that we can lay out. We have some ideas of what would work, and we would love to see that happen in this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind if I took a selfie? This is kind of the coolest thing I've done in a long time.
Real quick.
Thank y'all.
Mayor, we were able to get two remote speakers back on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and call them real quick.
Please do.
Joyce James.
Hello. Yes. Good morning. My name is Joyce James, and I am president and CEO of Joyce James Consulting. I had rescinded my request to speak, but since I'm here, I want to say good morning to the mayor and council members, and thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge the community for the organizing efforts that led to the creation of the Office of Equity, and also to the council members, both current and prior members, for taking a bold and courageous approach and steps to create an Office of Equity in the city of Austin. And this was and is a big deal. So it was through the forward-thinking leadership of those who were willing to listen to the community and to be transparent and vulnerable in acknowledging the existence of institutional and structural racism in the city of Austin that I believe led to increased community trust. And so I believe that there's still a strong need for the Office of Equity to have some autonomy and authority to work across departments. And I say this because of the experience that I've had and the privilege that I've had to work in multiple departments across the city of Austin. And just for us to acknowledge that, like Austin and Texas, race is still the number one predictor of a person's outcomes in their relationships with helping systems and institutions. And so it's really, really critical that there be internal and external stakeholder engagement where people are not operating from a place of who's racist, but rather a clear analysis and understanding of the harm, that we're still living in the footprint of the 1928 plan. And I believe separating and moving that office would create a step back for the city of Austin. You are a leader in this work. There are not many places across the country that have publicly acknowledged institutional and structural racism and have put in place departments like the Office
Thank
of
you,
Equity.
Speaker. Your time has
So they
expired.
should not have to have any layers in between them and city leadership.
Frank Netzer.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Frank Netzer. I am a homeowner in District 1, DSA, and a proud union member. And I'm calling because I take a look at this budget, and I see that we're allocating more and more money to police. Every time we add money to the budget for the police department, we cannot ever take it out, so that slice of pie gets bigger and bigger. Meanwhile, in the city of Austin, we have APD, AISD PD, Cap Metro PD, the county sheriff's office. We have DPS in ever-increasing numbers. And we have, those are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more ACC PD. I'm sure there are more and more PD offices that I cannot go right now. The issue is not that we don't have enough police or police budgets. The issue is, for example, a couple weeks ago, I had a friend who had a mental health crisis. They called me because they knew that I wouldn't call the police. I'm telling you that the answer is never going to be police. What we are trying to do is fix a problem that needs a nuanced approach with a hammer. When you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So there are things like EMTs, MCOT, like someone mentioned earlier. EMTs go to every single police interaction that we have, right? Or at least most of them. They are not paid in parity. They're understaffed at a much greater rate than any kind of PD in the state of Texas. In Travis County, we are struggling to make sure that we have the EMT response that we need. And they're not paid in parity, so of course not. So the issue here is not that whether or not we need to move dollars to police departments, but rather what services can we provide that actually solve the problems that we're looking for. For example, the DEI office would be able to solve that. When I look at this budget and I see people trying to increasingly solve non-police problems with police, when I see people trying to neuter DEI offices and diversity initiatives, I notice
Thank you,
that this is
Speaker.
the
Your
same
time
kind
has
of budget
expired.
that would come.
Mayor, that concludes all the remote speakers, so I'll switch back to in-person.
Thank you.
Okay, once again, I'll call 3 names at a time. When you hear your name, please come forward and you can sit in the front chairs and wait, and then speak your name into the mic at the podium, sorry. Andy Coco, Shelby Bohannon, JJ Ramirez. If you're here, please come forward.
Andy Coco, resident and homeowner in District 1. Budgets are moral documents. We hear it a lot, so let's review a couple moral curiosities in the proposed budget. 1, our election 3 months ago showed landslide support, again, for police transparency. Is it moral for Mr. Garza to turn around and put more money into the public info access abyss, purposefully opaque Austin Police Department? Not in my understanding of democracy. Should we roll over to state punishment and increase the police budget this huge amount irreversibly? The city said, nah, y'all. Community investment budget addresses many local ongoing crises and preps for new ones. Is it moral for Mr. Garza to propose increasing our reserve $40 million and to simultaneously ignore the vital services community investment budget offers up? Does it feel moral in a democracy that this interim fella has left y'all council members with little, if any, room to listen to and fund your constituents' needs? Is it moral to play with power and defang the equity, civil rights, and sustainability offices when Austin has been a leader on these issues. On our unhoused neighbors, some say, there but for the grace of God go I. But y'all, grace is not delivered not divinely, but through our actions. Mr. Garza set you up to indulge magical thinking. If we present a balanced budget, we'll stabilize. Well, it's the boots on the ground organizers you're hearing from today who are presenting a realistic community stabilizing spending. Our unhoused neighbors are disproportionately people of color, disabled, and queer. And with that, how dare Mr. Garza propose severe divestment from critical homelessness prevention? It doesn't get morally uglier than that. I keep hearing back to basics, but whose basics and from what era? Play old policies, resurrection games, win rotting zombie prizes. Let's not infect our future with dreadful, immoral, anti-visionary spending.
Shelby Bohannon, JJ Ramirez, and then Eli Cortez.
Hi, I'm Shelby Bohannon, and I'm speaking against adding any additional funding to the Austin Police Department. Giving an additional $32 million to the police department, knowing that this cannot be later reduced per state law, is ridiculous. The police department is still refusing to agree to basic oversight that was won by a huge margin of Austin voters in May. Do not ignore the voters. They struggled to hire despite offering high pay for additional officers and being currently able to offer $15,000 signing bonuses to new officers. This is an issue with the police department's leadership and culture of violence. Throwing an additional $32 million at them will not fix this. This would come at the expense of critical city services such as EMS, who actually saves lives, park staff, housing programs, and more. I urge you to vote against any increase in the police budget and vote against moving any additional city positions into the police department, which reduces transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
JJ Ramirez, Eli Cortez, Kathleen Mitchell.
Hey, Council. My name is JJ Ramirez. I'm an organizer at the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance. Honestly, I struggled on what I wanted to say today to y'all. The community investment budget is a budget proposed by the community, advocates, leaders in this community, talking to the community, talking to taxpayers and recommending to the council who are elected by the community on how to spend our tax dollars. Interim City Manager Garza the other day, quoted in KUT, thought that any kind of opposition to any information given by the community, how these things are going to be impacted by them, said this would stifle the professional staff of the city. Well, the professional staff of this city largely doesn't have the direct experience of living in the street, the members of this community, and it isn't the professional staff that should be recommending how we spend our money. It's listening to the community, telling you how we should spend our money. The council members up here listening to your constituents, voting those things and then the city manager doing what the city manager is supposed to do, helping to manage the city and carrying out these budget requests. It's just really aggravating to have people come up here who are homeless, who are outside, tell you these things don't work for us, but then 30% reduction in the homelessness strategy office. No additional funding to homeless services, even though we have a much higher homeless rate than we did yesterday. We're in a homelessness crisis. No money allocated officially to any kind of harm reduction procedures where the opioid crisis is at an all-time high. But $30 million extra dollars to policing. I'm really aggravated and would be very, very just annoyed if council would just vote this through as is. I really, really hope you don't, because if you do, what are you here for? What are you voted in for? What kind of pony show is this? Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Eli Cortez, Kathleen Mitchell, Donna Hoffman.
Good morning, Council. My name is Eli Cortez. I'm a resident of District 1, and I'm an organizer at Texas Harm Reduction Alliance, which operates in District 3. We are in the midst of an overdose and a homelessness crisis in Austin, which you all know. If you pass this budget as it stands today, with no substantial investments in housing, no substantial investments in services for homelessness, no substantial investments in harm reduction services, you are making a statement that you will do nothing substantial in the face of these crises. You're making a statement that you're going to allow these deaths, allow this homelessness to continue. And that is not acceptable. Furthermore, not only will you have ignored the programs and services that we've been asking for, that we know that work really across the board in the community investment budget, but you're making a public statement that you believe that police are the ones who are going to answer these crises. You believe that $32 million additionally in that budget for police will reduce overdoses, will end homelessness, and we know, and we've been telling y'all that that's not the case. We know that an investment in policing is harmful. It drives overdoses up. It doesn't do anything to support people exiting homelessness. And frankly, I'm tired. I'm tired of coming here year after year, public comment session after public comment session, public safety commission meeting, our reinventing public safety task forces. Like, we come back year after year after year and we tell y'all policing is not the answer. We need housing. We need services. We need y'all to listen to your community. And to the extent of Mr. Garza's comments yesterday, it's not the public staff and their recommendations over council members actually taking initiative to listen to their community. That's inappropriate. That's unacceptable. We are the community. We know what works, especially people experiencing homelessness, people who are experiencing overdoses, people who are dying in these streets. And to continue to come back here and have y'all completely ignore the things that we've been asking for and invest in things that we've been saying are harmful is a slap in the face. And if y'all pass the budget as it is today, that's y'all committing to an Austin that's going to continue with overdoses, that's going to continue with homelessness, and we're through with that.
Thank you. Kathleen Mitchell, Donna Hoffman, Larry Franklin. Please come on down if your name's been called.
Hi, y'all. Compared to everything you've heard so far, I'm going to give some very boring testimony. I do want to remind you, I'm sure you know, the community investment budget was the collaborative work of dozens of organizations, each of them committed to different pieces of it. And there's a lot of expertise that went into it, so I hope that you do look closely at it and identify things that the community is demanding and put them into this budget. I also just want to say I support Joyce James's comments. I had the pleasure of working with her on the Academy Review Committee, and she is an amazing woman. I hope that you heard what she had to say there. Getting to my detailed comments, I'm going to stick to one page. This is the changes to the police budget. You've heard a lot of concerns from people about the changes to the police budget, and I want to speak to a couple of them in particular. I think you all know that the city has been excessively slow to implement anything related to Prop A that passed this year. The reason I need to bring this up now is that this budget brings 25 human resources people and 4 PIO people into the police department. The definition of a G file is a file maintained by the police department. That's literally all it says in the statute. This is a file maintained by the police department. If you put people into the police department, then everything they do is G-file. So I understand that there's some debate, there always has been, between the community and the city about many things related to the G-file. But I promise you that if you move 25.5 human resources positions and 4 PIA positions into the police department, you will not be facilitating the implementation of Prop A or the kind of transparency and accountability that this community expects from you. Okay, I had 3 other points, but I guess I will get to them another time.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. And if you would email us the rest of your comments, we'll review those. And see you next time.
Donna Hoffman, are you here?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, did you submit a copy of that documentation, Ms. Mitchell, to the clerk's office? Do we have a copy of that? That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, Larry Franklin, Alicia Torres, Daniela Silva.
Good morning. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm going to go through it. I took a look at your baseline budget, and do you know that currently our city only produces about 7% of its food on a local level? But nowhere has it ever been that our city has a concern towards the production of food as a line item within the budget until we had the community investment budget. Now the city has a concern towards food. I have a small recommendation for each one of you. As our city grows, that's more people, right? That's transportation, that's housing, but most importantly, that's food. So with that being said, once again, I would advise all of you to not push forward with the baseline budget, but to take a look at the community investment budget thoroughly and pick some of the most wonderful things out of there. Because remember, we are a growing city. Food, housing, electricity. Thank you.
Alicia Torres, Daniela Silva,
Mayor
Ivana
Pro
Neri.
Tem, if I may, I'm sorry. Mr. Franklin, before you leave City Hall, Sharon Mays in my office, our fantastic chief of staff, is actively working on food security in the city of Austin. I'd like very much for you to stick around in the atrium just for a minute so she can come down and meet with you. Thank you.
Council, City Manager, my name is Daniela Silva. I'm a resident of District 3, and I'm here today to speak on behalf and in support of the community investment budget, which y'all have heard a lot about, and you will continue to hear more about because it is a broad coalition ranging from many issues, and folks who are experts of those issues will speak very passionately about those. So I support everything that they say, and I'm going to personally just share a story from my life that is related. I recently had an unhoused neighbor text me about a friend of his who was going to soon lose his home and if I could come help. So I went and met up with them, and his friend let me know that his brother in Round Rock passed away. The house is stuck in probate. He doesn't understand the process. He doesn't know where to get help. He also was put into housing where they paid the first month's rent, but he has struggled to keep up with rent as he's trying to get employed and could really benefit from some emergency rental assistance. And generally, just as a tenant, I think would really also benefit from education and from legal assistance. All of these probate and estate planning for seniors, emergency rental assistance, tenant education, and legal assistance are aspects of the community investment budget. So while these are all bullet points that could just seem like blank data, there are actual people who could benefit from these recommendations today, right now. I also want to echo the disappointment of the dramatic increase in the police department, which I think Austinites have said time and time again, that is not how they want to solve safety and security. Many people want to get to the root causes of these issues, all of which are addressed in the community investment budget, which again doesn't speak for every single community in Austin, but does speak for many of them. So I would really encourage y'all to take a look at that and see how we can maybe move some of this funding around to ensure that direct community needs are being addressed and that we're not putting more positions into PD and we're not dissolving the autonomy of very vital departments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alicia Torres, Ivana Neri, 8-Track.
Hi, everyone. I have someone who with me that we couldn't get translation for, so I'm going to be reading some of the statement that she gave me. And then a piece of what I also wrote. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ivana Neri. I am a homeowner and resident of District 4. I also work for Up Together, and I'm here to request that you reject the proposal to combine the Equity, Civil Rights, Sustainability, and Resilience offices into one department. Those offices, including the Innovation Office, are the ones making sure that hard-to-reach communities are engaged in city processes and that there is equitable distribution of city resources. Those offices foster innovation, have racial equity as a core value, and are catalysts for projects that have improved our communities. You can dismiss the fact that those offices were created by the community and their independence and autonomy must continue. I would also like to request that you incorporate the priorities of the community investment budget into the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, which includes funding for childcare, parent support specialists, rental assistance, and specifically funding to continue the guaranteed income program that is investing $1,000 per month. I'll tell you the story of Candy. Candy is a mom of 2 kids. She works as a babysitter and dedicates her time to organize domestic workers across the city. The pandemic affected her house. They lost their jobs and had to make a payment plan to be able to pay for rent. The money that she received to this pilot has helped her catch up on rent and being able to pay other bills. Additionally, she's been impacted by the recession and by the inflation. She's saying how now she's able to cover for some expenses, and because of that, her life has improved. She has less stress, and now she's able to dedicate more of her time to be with her family. She's grateful for the organizers who are asking you to put more funding toward the extension of this program, and also is grateful for the city for the investment that you're currently making into this. Want to say something? Thank you.
Alicia Torres, are you here? Alicia Torres? Okay. 8-track, Michelle Manning Scott, and then Camille Cook.
I made it mad, sorry. Good morning, members of the council and Mayor Kirk Watson, wherever you may be. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm first going to direct my first comments towards council members Ryan Alter and Councilmember Quadri. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Thank you all for the bravery and the stones to stand up to Garza with the amendments for the marshalling yard. Sorry, Garza, your smartest guys in the room ain't the smartest guys in the room. I'll bet you they won't even know how to find food if I drop them off at Republic Square with no money, no ID, no nothing. My name is 8-Track. I am a member of the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance Organizing Committee. I am a member of Street Forum, and I've been unhoused on the beautiful streets of downtown Austin since mid-December. $32 million. Are y'all kidding me? Every time I have an interaction with Austin's finest, do y'all know what photosensitivity means? Those flashing lights are the most painful thing in the world for me. What is APD's response? Last night, it's a light, like the sun. You want to give $32 million to that attitude? That is not going to help things at all. That is only going to make people worse and make people angry. Garza, why do you even care? You've already been on record saying you're going to be watching all this from TV when you're done. What's your dog in this fight? I'm trying not to get angry, because when I get angry, I lose focus. $32 million, that's a lot of food. That's a lot of clothes. That is a lot of rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing vouchers. And you're taking that away. A lot of people are going to starve. That is just all of the resources wasted going to APD that could help the root cause, integral care, harm reduction. I've lost so many friends this year due to overdose. How many more friends am I going to lose? Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for speaking.
Michelle Manning Scott, and then Camille Cook, and Michael Ward.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Manning Scott, and I am a District 7 resident and a homeowner there. I'm also a member of community radio station KOOP 91.7 FM here in Austin. And I'm here to say that both I and the co-op object to this proposed budget as written and endorse the plan put forth by Equity Action. My time does not allow me to detail all the objections we have, many of which have already been stated by the eloquent voices that have come before me. Co-op Radio's mission is to serve the underserved and give voice to marginalized groups here in Austin and beyond. Therefore, there are many aspects of this proposed budget that will go against this mission, such as dismantling and removing the authority and autonomy of city offices like the equity and civil rights offices, as well as depriving and decreasing funding for the programs that serve the marginalized and vulnerable populations of the city and take us backwards in terms of social progress that we've been witnessing the past couple of decades. As a programmer with co-op, And a news and public affairs programmer on Co-op's airwaves for the past 4 years, I've had the honor and privilege of speaking with many of the people who are part of the organizations who are speaking out against this budget. They are vital voices. They have stories. That should be seriously considered and when rewriting this budget. They serve these vulnerable and marginalized communities and have done the research and have the data to back up the reasons they object to the budget as written and endorse the community investment budget, which addresses the concerns of these organizations. I will say also that I've had the privilege and honor of speaking with Mr. Cadre, Ms. Alter, and Ms. Harper Madison on my program. And I know all of you are allies in this fight, and you will listen to and take seriously the concerns of all these organizations. And I urge the rest of you on council to also take into consideration all of these very important voices. Storytelling is very important when taking into consideration changes you're making on behalf of an entire community here in Austin. Thank you.
Camille Cook, Michael Ward, Chantel Pridgeon.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Camille Cook, and I work right down the street at Public Citizen. There are a lot of changes I'd like to see in this budget, but I'll just speak on a couple. First of all, I don't want to see the Offices of Sustainability and Resilience consolidated and put under the Planning Department. Similarly, I don't want to see the Office of Small and Minority Business Resource Department, Equity Office, and Civil Rights Office merged into another department as well. The importance of these offices should be represented in their ability to stand on their own. By subsuming them into other departments, the City of Austin is saying that civil rights, sustainability, resilience, and equity aren't top priorities. What kind of message does this send to the most vulnerable in Austin, whom these offices support the most? Second of all, we need more money to ensure that the climate equity plan is properly supported. This plan was created in partnership with citizens of the city, and to see it not prioritized during the hottest summer in history sends the message that the City of Austin does not listen to its citizens. Why not invest in replacing gas appliances with electric ones, or invest in building public shelters to deal with climate disasters like Winter Storm Uri? Equity Action has already created a community investment budget that details ways that funds can invest in our community health and safety. This should be one of our highest priorities. To sum up, the low funding of the climate equity plan and the demoting of various justice departments is indicative of a larger trend happening across the country. We're faced with the largest single challenge of our lifetime, and rather than come together as a community to support those being hit by it the worst, we're keeping on with business as usual. Anything is possible. Allocate funds to where the people have told y'all to allocate funds, towards climate justice work and towards the building out of our equity office, civil rights office, and our sustainability office. Thank you.
Michael Ward, Chantel Pridgeon, and Bethany Carson.
Hello, elected officials. I pray all is well and you're happy to be above ground. I am Michael Ward Jr. and sit on the board of the Greater Austin STEM Ecosystem, the UT at Austin Cockrell School of Engineering, community partner of the IT Caucus of the Texas House, and president and CEO of the Austin Urban Technology Movement. I am also on the Economic and Workforce Development Task Force for the Texas Broadband Development Office that just opened up this year. Today, I'm here to share the challenges with the proposed City of Austin budget. A city budget is supposed to finance the day-to-day operations and obligations to the city, which includes Austin citizens, residents, and amazing incoming transplants such as myself. As proposed, the budget does not take into account the needs of the community as highlighted by the community investment budget created by Equity Action, Austin Urban Technology Movement, and more than 30 other organizations that were here to solve the problems and remove the barriers preventing equitable impact and growth for all Austinites, especially for our most vulnerable communities. We also want to highlight the proposed budget does not align with the City of Austin Master Workforce Plan or the higher local plan spearheaded by Workforce Solutions, local businesses, and other community organizations. Lastly, this budget doesn't support workforce development and technology, technical advances for the community overall, such as broadband and devices for households, and reorganizes city departments focused on accountability, thus taking us further away from Austin becoming a smart hub and the thriving tech ecosystem for all. On behalf of our partners, volunteers, and clients we serve, we urge you to take into account the equity actions proposed by the community investment budget, listen to the needs of the community, and support the city budget that enhances the lives of Austinites. With all that being said, I'm also a father, a husband, community leader, business leader, and the type of Austin I envision is one where everybody can thrive. Children can play. Adults have enough income to take care of their households. Businesses can find talent. And Austin can be a leader where other people want to follow suit. Other countries want to follow suit. Other cities want to follow suit. So I put the power in City Council to please listen to the needs of the community and provide a budget that supports everybody. Thank you.
Chantel Pridgeon, Bethany Carson.
For all our guests in the audience, if you want to move the microphone, just move the top of it. Won't yell at you as much.
The mic's sensitive today, I guess. Chantel Pridgeon, Bethany Carson, Jowpal Connolly, sorry.
Good morning, Council. Back to the basics is the theme of the proposed baseline budget. And I have been thinking a lot about these supposed basics. And one of the things that comes to mind is a young woman who approached me a few months ago when I was walking out of a meeting at HACA at our housing authority. And she said, I'm desperately looking for resources. I have a family of 5. We just got evicted. We're all out on the street. Do you know where we can go and how we can get resources so we don't become unhoused? And I thought about her struggle and how we try to get her connected to something and how much there is a lack of that in our city. And then I also think about how during our point-in-time count this year, we counted a shocking, unprecedented number of single mothers living in parking lots throughout the city right now, particularly in South Austin, with their children and not having access to resources that they need. And then I think about how this year, our budget is moving from $8 million of rental assistance, tenant stabilization money, legal assistance, and moving assistance for renters to less than $250,000 for that. And I think about how the proposed baseline is a radical defunding of all tenant stabilization and support services. And I wonder, what basics are we going back to? And then I think about how all of the community investment budget requests around homelessness are being largely ignored. I think about the need for caseworkers being ignored. I think about the need for site-based vouchers for PSH being ignored, service funding for PSH being ignored. I think about everything the community is asking for being ignored. And I'm not sure if it matters to sit here and list off all of the things that you already know because we've already asked you for all of these things. But I am going to use the rest of my time to acknowledge that today there are 600 active eviction cases in Travis County, and that our numbers of people experiencing homelessness is seeing a sharp spike due to our lack of upstream prevention. And I'm going, thank you.
Thank you. Miriam Connor, Chris Harris, and Alexandra Evans. If you're here, please make your way down to the podium and state your name.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman
Thank
Kelly.
you. JP, if you could email council the rest of your remarks, I'd really like to see the rest of what you had to say in the absence of being able to hear it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Alexandra Evans. I live in District 9 and I work at Avow, Texas. I am in support of the community investment budget, and more so was particularly disappointed to see the baseline budget failed to mention any funding of logistical support for Austinites seeking abortion care. This omission does a great service to the Republican Party, who know that their total state ban on abortion is greatly harmful, greatly unpopular, and are relying on all of us rolling over and accepting a post-jobs world despite the grave consequences. The ask for logistical support funding is not new. In fact, it previously existed from 2020 to 2022 within the general operating budget. When the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, this funding was seized despite it being more necessary than ever. It is true that Chapter 2272 of the Texas Government Code prohibits a governmental entity from entering into a taxpayer resource transaction with an abortion provider or an abortion provider affiliate. While I understand the city cannot violate state or federal law, I urge the council to consider other financial barriers to abortion besides the cost of the procedure under a total ban, including travel and lodging costs, childcare, time off work, food, and more. The nearest abortion clinic for someone in our city is 500 miles away. Difficulty accessing abortion care disproportionately affects people of color, people living with a low income, and people who are already parents. We were the first city in the nation to provide such practical support for people needing abortion care, and I applaud the creativity that went into that funding. As we see the dire consequences of a total abortion ban in current heart-wrenching lawsuits, our already staggering, ever-increasing maternal mortality rate, and more, I'm sure you understand that it is critical that this funding be returned. Council, it is not an ask that you violate the law, but in the interest of every Austinite who has needed abortion care, who needs abortion care today, and who will need abortion care in the future, I urge you to have the bravery, integrity, and understanding of your duty to navigate said law. The failure to do so is effectively support for the extremist lawmakers who have put us in our current situation, and your city is much more deserving of your solidarity than they are. Thank you.
Ma'am, Ms. Evans, I just want to say thank you for your comments. I know a number of us on this dais have worked on abortion logistical funding over the years. I know there's a court case currently working its way through the system, just asking the legislature to define exactly what it meant by some of the situations that people may find themselves in with difficult pregnancies. And so I appreciate your comments.
Miriam Connor, are you here? Okay. Chris Harris, Chaz Moore, and Misael Ramos.
Good morning, Council. I'm Chris Harris I'm in District 9, Policy Director for AJC, and I'm here today to speak against this budget and for the community investment budget. Recently, I called 311 about a man apparently in a mental health situation who appeared agitated. I called 311 for a number of reasons, which will become apparent. But upon talking to 311 and asking for someone to come and do some sort of mental health check with this person, I was told that this was a police matter. And I told him I didn't think it was a police matter. And the 311 call operator said the police will say that it is. And you should call 911, and it might take a minute, but hang on, because someone will pick up. This, to me, exemplifies the real challenges that we face in our public safety system today. We have a lot of people who do need help. But it's not the type of help that we're offering them, and it's definitely not the type of help that's being offered by this budget. In fact, that's the type of help actually being cut by this budget. We need people in the 911 call center, desperately. We need people at EMS. These are positions that can be filled if we changed how we funded them. You all have given the police a raise with nothing in exchange. You've given a signing bonus. There's not clear that more money thrown at the police department will do anything as it relates to the staffing issues that they claim. What is clear is that they continue to struggle to recruit, and then once recruited, they very much struggle to retain recruits through the academy. You all, and this community, myself included, have worked for years to help reform the academy, to fix just this issue, and yet it continues. More money thrown at the police department will not solve our public safety challenges, and they will not solve the staffing issues. Money to 911 and EMS will help with our public safety challenges and will help this community. I urge you to do that. Thank you so much for the time.
Chaz Moore, Craig Nazer, and Jen Ramos.
People are just disrespecting you today. Yeah, good morning, afternoon, or whatever. I'm just here to speak against the budget as it currently stands. Yeah, you know, I feel like in the last, whenever we got some new folks on council, we've been moving backwards. You know, for the last 8 years, we've been doing some pretty progressive things with our budget. We've been trying new things. We've been trying to invest in ideas and institutions, programs that actually help people. And in a matter of months, after the November election, we've striped and we've taken steps back to reinvest and invest more in things that we know, like Chris said, does not help people. And although if you let Twitter call it, they blame folks like me and Chris and some of my friends behind me for all the problems with policing. I wish I was that powerful. But, the truth is APD has staffing issues that are not my fault at all. People just don't want to be policed no more. Go figure. And I think the fact that we're putting money into a police budget as opposed to putting money into the things that all these brilliant people behind me are speaking about is just a signs of city council going back to the 1990s and not moving and progressing in the way in which this very smart, capable city has been moving over the past decade. And I hope that we can continue to have dialogue with the folks that sit behind the dais that have talked to community members. Shout out to Mackenzie Kelly that for all intents and purposes, according to social media, should never talk to me. But she's one of the few that have actually opened her door to talk to people like me, and I appreciate that. And I think the more we have conversations like that, the more we can really see where the money needs to go and not just putting it into these really old, outdated ideas. And also, I'll say this at the risk of potentially butchering the stuff my friends are doing. I think that U.S. Cities Council should really check the powers of an interim city manager who's not here that's not his job yet. And I think you all should take some of your power back and do what people elected you to do.
Craig Nazer, Jen Ramos, and Meng Key.
My name is Craig Nazer. I'm the Conservation Chair of the Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club. It's hot out. Climate change is here and it is already affecting disenfranchised communities the most. The Sierra Club strongly supports the community investment budget. If we are going to beat climate change, we need the help of everyone. People struggling to survive are an essential part of the solution. We are all in this together. Look out the back window. That beautiful evergreen sumac tree is dead as a result of climate change. The shade it provided is gone. That is a warning. I draw your attention to the Congress Avenue bat colony, which is also showing signs of struggle. That colony provides Austin with millions of dollars worth of jobs and environmental services. The Austin Animal Advisory Commission unanimously passed a resolution to request hiring one city bat biologist to provide expertise to address this issue. It appears that all city departments are under so much financial stress that no department wants to accept the position. I remind you that you set policy. The cost would be small for a big future benefit. Our bats are an essential part of the Austin community. Here is a quote from John Fire Lame Deer from 1972. If this earth should be destroyed, it will be by desire, by the lust of pleasure and self-gratification, by greed of the green frog skin, by people who are mindful of their own self, forgetting about the needs of others. The green frog skin is his name for dollar bills. Thank you very much.
Jen Ramos, Meng Key, Shaman Perkson.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Jen Ramos. I am the Central Texas Region Director for the Texas Young Democrats, the first Latina president of the Austin Young Democrats, and a resident of City Council District 3. First off, I'd like to comment on the lack of transparency from Interim City Manager Garza in the presentation of this budget, which included the use of large binders to present the budget to council staff on a Friday night, a lag in the public upload of the budget document online, and a lack of a simplified proposal, all which hinder Austinites in their time and ability to see how our city would like to allocate funds. In 2023, we should be utilizing resources to make this information easier for all Austinites to see. I'm a renter, public transit user, and someone who has been able to find success in my life and career thanks to previous budgets. An increase in funding for Health and Human Services, as championed by former council member Delia Garza, allows me to seek life-saving service care at the Planned Parenthood Clinic in East Austin when I was uninsured and only making $14,000 a year. I am disappointed that the budget as currently presented to the public does not invest in community resources such as renters relief, especially during an affordable housing and housing crisis in the city of Austin, the removal of a living wage as a priority, and the consolidation of multiple offices that all serve different purposes, such as the merging of the Equity Office and the Office of Police Oversight. As currently presented, this budget does little to help our communities, and I believe that Equity Action's community investment budget will be a step in the right direction. What we need to look at when we fund this budget is how we can help more Austinites and not put them in silos. The increase in police funding is a detrimental mistake that we can make for this community because it means that we will get to a budget amount that cannot be reversed for a department that does not want accountability and is not willing to meet us at the table for accountability and resources. Thank you for your time.
Meng Key, Shaman Perskin, and Monica Guzman.
Hello, my name is Meng Chi, and I am with Up Together, a nonprofit that trusts and invests in communities with unrestricted cash payments. I'm also a resident of District 7. I'm here today to urge you to adopt the community investment budget, which includes continuing direct cash transfers to families experiencing financial hardship in the 2023-24 fiscal year. I also urge you to reject the restructuring of the Equity, Civil Rights, Resilience, and Sustainability offices, and instead keep them as autonomous entities to focus on addressing systemic inequities and sustainability in Austin. As you may know, Up Together is a nonprofit organization that is currently partnering with the city on the Austin Guaranteed Income Pilot to distribute $1,000 a month to 135 families in Austin and Travis County. Up Together believes that families experiencing financial hardship have many strengths themselves and in their communities, and by combining those with direct cash investments, can achieve their goals and accelerate their socioeconomic mobility. So far, preliminary results of the pilot show that participants have made positive impacts after just 6 months. For instance, participants have increased housing stability, participants are reporting improvements in their mental health and food security, and participants are working towards their long-term goals, which include going back to school, increasing their job skills, and spending more time with their children. Continuing to fund direct cash transfers is a vital part of addressing systemic racism and inequity and improving outcomes for Austin residents while preventing their displacement out of the city. The Equity Office has been an integral partner in launching our Guaranteed Income Pilot. The office has a proven track record of making a difference in many areas, including vaccine accessibility, addressing urgent needs after Winter Storm Uri, advocating for community voices in emergency management and climate planning, and providing vital funding to businesses and organizations. Restructuring the Equity Office, as well as the Civil Rights, Resilience, and Sustainability offices, means losing a key voice for accountability in historically oppressed communities in Austin. In closing, I ask you to ensure that Austin remains a city where everyone can live and thrive by adopting the community investment budget and keeping the Equity, Civil Rights, Resilience, and Sustainability offices as independent entities within the city of Austin. Thank you.
Real quick, I know I've met with Up Together regarding some preliminary findings with the Guaranteed Income Pilot Program. I believe my colleagues might be interested in also receiving that information and just would want to invite you to share that out if you can.
Oh, great. Yeah, we can definitely do that at a later time. Yes. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next speaker. Shaman Perskin, Monica Guzman.
Council and Mayor, wherever you are, thank you very much for letting me speak today. My name is Shaman Perskin, and I am with the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance. I was just sitting here thinking to myself that I agree with most what everybody said about this proposal. This budget proposal is not good. That one that you want to give money to police in a situation where they have not been a good police force for a long time, and it behooves me that this would propagate more money to be spent with the APD as opposed to all the other things that it could be spent on in better ways. Now, in particular, I wanted to speak about the PHS voucher, the permanent housing voucher, I received this voucher. I have for years, and basically, I get about $1,050 a month. I pay the rest of the bills, and that's a lot cheaper than millions of dollars to be spent other places. So how many months' rent is $9 million, for instance? Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Monica Guzman, Alicia Castillo, and Simone Benz.
Hearing Council, I'm Monica Guzman, Policy Director at GAVA Go Austin Vamos Austin. We are hopeful that you will consider a more robust budget that carries forward the critical progress of the past decade and urge you to to course correct on 3 points. Increase your investment in public health, parks, as well as investment in tenant relocation assistance. Given Austin's growth and increase in climate stressors, resourcing these departments and critical needs is more important than ever. GAVA also supports the community investment budget and its priorities. Keep the current departmental structure of independent offices for equity, sustainability, resilience, and civil rights. It is crucial that the Equity Office maintains a purview that allows for the continued development of equity champions in each city department who are analyzing the data, setting metrics, and creating processes that drive more equitable outcomes, from drainage improvements to anti-displacement dollars. The offices of sustainability and resilience must continue to have interdepartmental reach so they can bring our utilities together to address critical infrastructure needs. Sustainability holds more knowledge on current assets and gaps than any other department. Siloing them in planning would be devastating to our disaster preparedness and response efforts. Finally, take the irreversible and excessive increase in police funding off the table. Our policing shortages are not due to funding shortages, and we already know that funding our critical infrastructure, social services, and quality of life initiatives bring us the crime reduction and social safety nets that truly keep us safe. In the few seconds I have left, speaking solely as a District 4 resident, my comments are mine and mine alone, and I say this. The Austin Police Department currently has the largest budget in Austin history. It doesn't need more money. It needs to address its racist history. Thank you.
Alicia Castillo, Simone Benz, and Beverly Lazar.
My name is Alicia Castillo. I'm a District 3 resident, and thank you for your time and listening to our comments today. I wanted to follow up on some of the things Kathy Mitchell before me was bringing up in regards to the police budget. We have some questions and just some things that we'd like more clarity on in that portion of the budget. Firstly, being a couple of somewhat mysterious items that we're seeing here. Number one, I wanted to note that there's one item, and I'm looking at page 315 of the budget, that's an increase for various technology contracts in the budget, nearly $500,000 for that. It would be wonderful to get more detail on what that actually is. We also want, I'm curious about the high FTEs in the Building Services Department, moving those 8 positions. That's $2 million for those 8 positions. Just curious what that's for. Also, a little bit concerned about the full year funding for that February ordinance that we passed. That was supposed to cover 1 year, is my understanding, and yet we're funding it at, in this budget without having had that be part of the bargaining contract or anything. So from my standing, that has to be removed if we expect APA to come back to the bargaining table, rather than just giving it there at $8 million right now, $8 million. So those are a few of the questions, but also I wanted to comment on one item regarding the improved training and data reporting based off of the Kroll report. The data reporting that's listed there, this absolutely should be an Office of Police Oversight budget item, not a police department budget item. It is explicitly in the OPO's role to do some of that data reporting, and that's really important to us because it will ensure an external third-party read and analysis of that data reporting rather than the APD's read on that data. Thank you so much.
Simone Benz, Beverly Lazar, David Johnson.
Good morning, Council. My name is Simone Benz. I'm a District 4 resident and staff at Sustainable Food Center. SFC stands in solidarity with the Community Investment Budget Collaborative, and we urge you to consider its recommendations. I also want to echo Larry Franklin's comments related to food system investments, and thank you for your continued investment in APH social service contracts. I'm here today to voice our concerns specifically over the proposed restructuring of the Office of Sustainability. The Office of Sustainability is fundamental to SFC's mission of transforming the food system to nourish our health, land, and livelihood of the community in Austin and across Central Texas. For example, when the Burger Center was designated as a community vaccination site, Office of Sustainability brought together partners including APH, Austin Independent School District, Sunset Valley Police Department, and the City Council of Sunset Valley to ensure that both immunization and food access initiatives could work hand in hand to support our community during a time of extreme stress. And throughout the pandemic, the Office of Sustainability continued to convene partners on a weekly basis to share information and bridge community services, ultimately ensuring that our community was supported by our systems. Now they are charged with developing and implementing the city's first ever food system plan. This is a deeply community-involved process which requires collaboration across sectors and stands to build a food system that will serve generations of eaters and producers to come after us. While sustainability is vital to city planning, the scope of this department should not be limited just to planning. So I come to you today in partnership alongside dozens of partner organizations that you've already heard from. We want to highlight that this is happening at a time when racial and gender equity are being challenged across the nation. By overlooking the value and autonomy of these offices, we limit their ability to effectively address community crises, provide innovative solutions, amplify voices, and secure necessary resources for our community. So again, I ask you to protect the autonomy of the Office of Sustainability. Thank you for your time.
Beverly Lazar, David Johnson, and Temi Olujobi. If any of you are here, please come down to the front. Temi, is that you? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Johnson. I'm policy and research organizer at Grassroots Leadership and also the co-founder of Coalition to Abolish Slavery Texas. I don't know how we got to a place where the people that we've put in place don't believe in our city, don't believe in us, the people that make this city great. I don't know how we've landed at a place where fear has people ready to revert back to things that happened the last time Mayor Watson was Mayor Watson, when everything was centered around business and wealth and privilege. I'm a resident of District 8. I went from 03 to 04 to 49, so I know about privilege. I watch it and I enjoy it myself. And I can speak and say, we don't need to center business. Since when has business ever provided equity or sustainability? Business has only provided capitalist exploitation and corruption. Equity is a pillar of what the city stands for. Why would we take things like equity and civil rights and sustainability out of their own space to occupy and hold and put them in the pocket of business entities, of business interests? Other than the fact that those are the interests that heavily fund certain people's campaigns, I'd hope that you say there is no other reason. There is no good reason to do these things. There is no good reason to refuse the community investment budget that we collectively and collaboratively put together. You always say, bring us solutions, don't bring us problems. Well, damn it, we brought you solutions and you've ignored them. And then we get a new mayor and his backup city manager who is interim, and then what do? You cave in. You sit here and entertain this nonsense because our city is not a fear-centered city. Our city is healthy and loving. This is the same city that didn't need DPS. This is the same city that doesn't need black people dying in the street. This is the same city that doesn't need people overdosing everywhere, that doesn't need people being homeless. So why would we ever trust the same business interests that have dominated this city for the last 20 years?
Thank you, sir.
Why would we hand them responsibility for equity and sustainability and justice? Why? Unless you're hoping to make a little bit of money off of it too. So maybe the question is, how bought and sold are you?
Thank you. I'm going to call the next speaker. Beverly, are you here? Okay, Temi Oluhobi, and then Carla Perito.
Temi Olajobi. Morning, y'all. Here today from Leslie Poole's district. Just to add my voice to the chorus of folks that stand against this budget proposal. Specifically against the merger of the Equity Office, the Small Business Minority Resource Department, and the Civil Rights Office. I work with a community org called CCU, that's Communities of Color United. And since the pandemic started, much of that work has been focused on mutual aid and political education. So I get to see firsthand on a regular basis how our of color community stays struggling to access basic needs. The Equity Office, the office that no longer would exist under this budget, has directly aided the work that we do in CCU. Through their mini grant program, we were able to get over 50 households with over 200 kids and 200 adults culturally specific fresh produce and home goods without any strings attached. That's every month we do that work. Through their Rise Fund program, the direct cash assistance helped many of these same people that are working class, that we provide food for, money to keep their lights on, gas in their car, and their homes cool. Through their Guaranteed Income Pilot program, we've helped these same community members even more keep roofs over their head. The Equity Office couldn't have made these programs without the structure they have in place now. A separate department with a direct ear to the people, the city manager, the city council, and the mayor. I don't want my money, and I know the people that I work with in CCU don't want their money, their tax dollars spent bulldozing these departments and the crucial work that they do. I don't want my money to be a weapon against the progress the community has scratched and clawed and fought for over the years. Thank you.
Carla Pareto, Fran Tattoo, J. Lila Peoples. If any of you are here, please come down to the front. Janice Bookout.
Good morning or afternoon. Janice Bookout, Director of Earth Day Austin and co-founder of Community Resilience Trust, and I'm also uplifting my colleague Miriam Connor, who couldn't be here. These four offices need their full authority, autonomy, and support to do their excellent work and continue to improve on it. Signers of our public statement, including 63 organizations and 200 leaders whose collective reach is over 200,000 people, include all council districts and a spectrum of lived experience, including communities of color, low income, gender nonconforming, unhoused, immigrants, and people with disabilities, and multiple sectors: political, social, religious, mutual aid, media, health, civil rights, policy, environment, business, justice, resilience, and the arts. Please ask these questions not yet mentioned on the message board. Were the offices in question asked for their subject matter expertise before making these changes? Why are these changes inconsistent with the reports put out by these offices and the founding documents with which they were established? Does the city manager have the authority to recognize an office created through a city ordinance, such as the Office of Civil Rights? Beyond the city manager's stated perception that early-stage community engagement isn't beneficial, what other rationale is there behind ignoring the intent of the resolutions, council comments, budget approvals, and ordinance that establish these offices as independent? Has the city manager thoroughly reviewed the work and various reports from these offices, Project Connect Equity Tool, Climate Equity Plan, Resilience Hubs, and the equity dashboards of 37 departments? Have we fully considered the work that you would be disrupted? Please ask these questions on the record and deal with these realities. Y'all, we're about to break the record for over 100 degrees. We need these, for days over 100 degrees, we need these offices in full power to survive the next 30 years of climate change. Complex societal problems require multi-perspective, stakeholder engagement. Equity builds community health. Sustainability requires diversity. Resilience is life-saving and cost-effective, and civil rights must never be demoted. Today, you heard similar points from the equity officer, former equity officer, and Texas's leading expert in racial equity. Remove the restructuring from the budget. Thank you. I support the OPO and community investment budget, and bring water to your unhoused neighbors, please.
Carla Pareto, are you here? What about Fran Tattoo? Okay, moving on. Katia Guzman. Jalila Peoples.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Katia Guzman. I am here as a director of Academia Cuautli and as a resident of District 3. I am here to ask for your immediate support of the Hispanic Quality of Life budget recommendation to expand funding for our culturally diverse program through an allocation of $550,000 to Academia Cuautli. Thanks to the generous funding received from the City of Austin, we successfully enrolled more than 150 students into our summer coding program hosted at Sanchez Elementary. This is 5 times the amount of students we were able to enroll last year. Aztec Kids Code is a culturally sustaining Indigenous STEM program serving 2nd to 8th grade students attending AISD schools. This summer, students learned video game design, digital monetization, blockchain technology, and danza mexica in both English and Spanish. In particular, AKC programming is designed for largely immigrant, Indigenous, Latinx, Black, and emergent bilingual students. This achievement was also made possible through our valuable collaboration with the Mexican American Cultural Center and Austin ISD. Our partnerships have enabled us to offer complimentary breakfast and lunch services, as well as transportation to and from the camp. Academia Cuautli is only one example of the kind of community programs your constituents are here asking you to invest in. Throughout the past 4 years as a teacher at Aztec Kids Code, I have seen a profound impact on our students, providing them with invaluable opportunities for personal and academic growth. By equipping them with essential coding skills and fostering a community-centered learning environment, we have witnessed a remarkable boost in their confidence, self-esteem, and sense of belonging. Many students have not only discovered a passion for technology, but have also gained access to potential career paths that were previously inaccessible to them. This program is helping bridge the digital divide, empowering the students to become active contributors to Austin's growing tech economy and leveling the playing field for a brighter future. I urge you to continue investing in our communities that are providing direct services to empower our children and teachers in Austin. Academia Cuautli is devoted to educating, empowering, and inspiring the next generation of leaders in STEM. Lastly, I invite you to witness their achievements at our summer graduation Sunday, August 6th, from 9 to 11 at Sanchez Elementary. Thank you.
Jalila Peoples, are you here? Okay, Maria Unda, Angela Valenzuela, and Luz Alvarez Sims. Please come on down and just state your name.
Hi, I brought some supporting documents. Can I share them with y'all? Yes.
If you hand them to the clerk, they'll distribute them. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name's Maria del Carmen Unda, and I am the project manager and teacher at Academia Cuautli. I also just completed my doctoral program at the University of Texas at Austin's Education, Leadership, and Policy program. So I am here to support Academia Cuautli and the Hispanic Quality of Life Resources Advisory Commission recommendation for allocation for $550,000 for Academia Cuautli. Academia Cuautli, as Katia has mentioned, is a language and cultural revitalization project for 2nd to 5th grade emergent bilingual students in Austin Independent School District. And so since inception in 2014, Academia has enrolled over 1,000 AISD emergent bilingual students, trained over 40 Indigenous Latinx public school teachers, and hosted over 250 professional development workshops, initiated Academia Cuautli's Grow Your Own Bilingual Leadership and Development Program for AISD teachers of color, and successfully implemented a research and community university community partnership between Austin Independent School District, UT Austin College of Education, and UT Austin History Department, and the Greater Austin community. The $550,000 funds provided by the City of Austin will allow us to expand and reach culturally relevant programming to new schools, recreational centers, and within our community programs. With this funding, we plan on expanding our Aztec Kids Code Summer Program. Right now, we have 150 students as we're speaking at Sanchez Elementary School, and we want to grow our program to 300 to 400 students. In the fall and the spring, we usually service 50 emergent bilingual students. We would like to expand and have 250 students. Additionally, per the community request and per PARD request, they wanted us to go and train teachers within the community to create like a professional, relevant, culturally relevant teacher professional development workshops. And so just collaborating with those centers, and we want to train at least 100 teachers. As such, we plan to serve over 500 students and 100 teachers. So my dissertation focuses on Latinx, Indigenous, AISD teachers. So within this section, please bear with me. As you know, there's also a teacher shortage, and that's, so I yield my time. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'd just like to make some brief commentary. This kind of backup information, when you bring us information, is so very helpful. My staff and I can pour through this and actually make something actionable happen. This is very helpful. So for other commenters, if and when you have the opportunity, I realize not everybody's able, but you should see how thorough this packet is. Everything we need to know about your organization, what your mission statement is, it's all contained here. So helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and help me support the next generation of
Absolutely.
STEM leaders of Black and Brown youth within
Absolutely.
the Austin Independent School District. Thank you.
Absolutely appreciate your commentary
So
today.
are
Thank
there
you.
packets stuck down there? Because we got this, but not the folder.
I appreciate your comments, Councilmember Harper Madison, and I will say also with emails, if you have reports you want us to see or links you want us to visit, make sure to include those as well, because it makes it easy for us to digest the
I
content
will
better.
email it to each one of y'all and to your staff.
Thank you. Councilmember Kadri?
Yeah, I think it was already addressed, but I appreciate y'all coming to our budget on all this Saturday. I don't think there's enough packets on the dais for everyone, so if you don't mind emailing our office.
Yes.
I can give you Councilmember Vela's, and you can pass it on.
Yeah, he has all those documents.
I'm taking your stuff, Cheeto. Okay.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Angela Valenzuela, followed by Luz Alvarez-Sims, and then Professor Emilio Zamora.
Yes, thank you so much. And we do represent a community-based effort. I'm Angela Valenzuela. I'm a member of the faculty at the University of Texas, but I'm a member of the community and have been involved for quite some time now. We got started as Academia Cuautli back in 2013 when people in the community were concerned about the literacy issues facing our children and also teachers, and just sort of the turnstile process that's not helpful at all with the memory and the curriculum, the investment going away because teachers are leaving the profession. And it's even gotten worse, as we know, in the context of the pandemic. And so what we were doing earlier on, as early as 2014, when we were first founded, was creating capacity among the bilingual dual language educators by bringing them together to develop curriculum, to prepare teachers to teach the curriculum. Through the partnership with the district, we make all of what we develop available so that it's available district-wide. That proved to be enormously useful during the pandemic when we had stuff that could just go readily online that then teachers could avail of themselves of. Spanish, English, TEKS-aligned. It's a professional curriculum. And the district, praise God, has helped us all of these years and strongly supports us. But because of declining revenues for the district, we're down to a very precious few dollars now of support. And that's because they like us, right? That's because we're sincere partners, although they have consistently contributed in other ways through providing transportation, through providing pay for teachers who give of their time in our Saturday school. We are a camp, we're a Saturday school, we're a curriculum development project, there's different pieces to it, and you'll see it in the book, and we're expanding. We're in a growth moment right now. It's really, really exciting, and a testament to our worth, if I can just say this to track back on what Dr. Unda was saying, is that we have saved the district thousands of dollars by retaining teachers. We haven't lost a one, okay? In 10 years, now we're entering 10 years of existence. It's between $20,000 and $30,000 to replace one teacher. And so, add it up, and we only add value to the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Luz Alvarez Sims, Professor Emilio Zamora, Patricia Nunes.
Hello, council members. I am Luz Alvarez Sims. I'm a 15-year veteran dual language teacher, 10 years of which I've served in AISD, and I've had the honor of serving as a teacher in the Academia Cuautli program since 2016. And through this time, I've seen the positive impact this program has had on our community of Latinx students, their families, volunteers, researchers, and with teachers. Academia Cuautli is a bilingual and cultural revitalization program for 4th to 5th grade students attending AISD. We offer instruction in Mexican American studies, Tejano studies, and STEM curriculum, all which provide the academic support children need throughout the school year. It also provides enrichment for students on culturally relevant and sustaining pedagogies, which views our multilingual students through an asset-based lens. Since the start of the program, we've served over 1,000 multilingual students, have provided curricular resources and professional development for teachers in the Austin area, and have published several academic research articles supporting the efficacy of our program. It's vital to our community to ensure that the city prioritizes funding for our Academia Cuautli program, which will ensure that our multilingual students continue to have an enriching space that supports their academic growth, but even more importantly, provides a space where student cultural identity, history, and languages are valued and celebrated. Students are engaged in culturally sustaining curriculum through our program. It integrates artistic, hands-on activities for students to celebrate their heritage language, learn their local history, and become active participants in their community. And we engage in activities outside of the classroom as well by visiting our local museums, city parks, the university, the powwow, the Capitol, and more. And I've personally experienced and witnessed the joy that students and families have when they come to Academia Cuautli. Parents have shared how this space makes them feel like they have a community that supports them outside of school. I've seen parents take pride in being experts in some of the lessons on identity, immigration, and indigeneity. And this positive connection with home and school empowers our families and students as they navigate academic spaces. I also want to highlight that Academia Cuautli will also continue to be a collaborative academic space for teachers in Austin ISD and the surrounding areas to create and implement a curriculum that's culturally sustaining for our students and their families. So I just want to end by saying it is vital to fund this program, and we thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Professor Emilio Zamora, Patricia Nunez, and Carmen Llanes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for your service, Mayor and Council members. My name is Emilio Zamora. I'm Professor of History at the University of Texas at Austin. I've been also a public servant loyal to the city of Austin in a number of capacities. I won't go into that, but I'm most proud of the work that we're doing with Academia Cuautli. We're now in the 10th year of operation. We already have some important documents, records that say most everything you need to know about who we are. But you've heard also from some of the young people that are coordinating many of our activities, including a teacher, of course, in Angela Valenzuela, one of the co-founders alongside with me of the Academia Cuautli. What I want to do is simply briefly comment on where we're going. You already know who we are, what we do. You might want to know about some things that I think are exciting in the future of Academia Cuautli. They're not necessarily part of the program currently, but I think we're working in that direction. One is that I'm really excited about developing multi-ethnic curriculum. We already focus on Tejano studies, women's studies, and indigenous studies. We want to expand in the future towards a more robust curriculum that talks about instances of collaboration and cooperation between different groups in Texas history. One of them has to do with the Underground Railroad to Mexico. It included a lot of poor whites and African Americans, obviously, but also very prominently participating were the Mexicans who were expelled or thrown out of places like Austin because of their support of the so-called fugitive slaves. We want to develop curriculum so that we can expand in that direction. I think it's very exciting. I think we also want to promote the idea of Cuautli as a model that can be used within the district in conjunction with the district and independent of the district, so that other communities can then assume agency in promoting educational opportunities for our youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patricia Nunez, Carmen Llanes, and Jessica Robertson. If your name's been called, you can go ahead and go to the podium. Please just state your name.
For sure. Hey, I'm Jess Rodriguez-Robertson. I live in District 7. I'm here to also speak against the budget as proposed, specifically against the lack of rental assistance and tenant support. And so I've been working really closely for the last 8 months with a friend of mine. She's a trans veteran who's 80% disabled. She is constantly on the brink of eviction and just circling the drain of irreversible poverty. And what I've seen working with her and what she's up against and what support services there are and are not is just a fraction of the dozens of organizations who consulted on the community investment budget. They have the experience and institutional knowledge of how to best serve folks in her position. But what I've seen is that when you live not just paycheck to paycheck, but day to day, whether or not you're going to get food, whether or not your air conditioning is going to work, whether or not you can take a shower, the wheel of the budget doesn't just become a pie chart. It's kind of like a wheel of outcomes. And looking at this right now, what I've seen is that it looks like the chance that her number, that her dial lands on help is smaller and lands on incarceration or arrest for poverty-related reasons has increased dramatically. So this is very stressful to me. So by defunding both the upstream prevention of homelessness by tenant stabilization, and resources to address homelessness on the ground, we're moving towards a community where poverty is directly criminalized and families are pushed into desperate and precarious situations. I think this budget is obtuse and regressive. I'm a collector of vintage clothes. I love stuff from the 90s, but I can tell you that right now, from when we're buying stuff from the 90s, we're paying 2023 prices. So I think we need to keep our heads where we're at right now and address the increasing homelessness, the struggles that people that are subject to predatory management that is emboldened by state policies. Like, we just have to be better and do better for them, I guess. So that's about it.
Carmen Llanes, Jessica Robertson, Susana Carranza. If your name's been called, please come down towards the front and state your name at the podium.
Good morning. I'm Susana Carranza. I live in District 9. I, like most of folks today, I oppose the budget as published. I agree on how this budget steers the city in the wrong direction. The voters have spoken again and again that we want more emphasis in equity, help the prevention, and not policing. We also would re-emphasize that any increase in police funding can never be taken back because of awful state laws that were passed in the 87th legislative cycle. So it's really absurd that we're throwing more money in a place that we can't take back by moving civilian positions into the police. I think it's really sad that we are mostly ignoring the recommendation from the community investment budget, where a coalition of organizations that are on the ground doing the work, are recommending where the money can be spent to really focus on prevention of homelessness and poverty by really getting the funds upstream and not just dealing with much more expensive fixing. Like, the old saying, 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We're just kind of investing in the wrong thing. So please oppose this budget, and please stop with this consolidation of offices that really should remain standing on their own, specifically the equity, civil rights. Like, it makes no sense to kind of bundle that under a business-centric office. Thank you.
Carmen Yanes, are you here? Okay, I think someone's waving. Thank you. Jessica Robertson. That was her. Sorry, apologize. Susana Carranza. Wait. Okay, sorry. Eric Bird. Latasha Black. Susan Spataro. Okay, please just state your name at the podium.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Bird. I am here as a representative of the Austin Area Urban League. I partnered with the CIB to help develop the community investment budget. And I'm also an Austinite. I'm a native Austinite and a citizen, and I think that takes the forefront. Matter of fact, I was born less than a mile from here at Brackenridge. Some of you may remember Brackenridge, right? I have a speech, but I don't know if I'm going to say it. I think I'm just going to talk to you because I happen to know that you're people and you're not perfect. And no one behind me knows what it's like to sit in your seats. And right now you have a very tough, critical decision, whether or not to accept this budget or parts of it. And you're hearing things from the community and they're telling you no, and you're hearing things in the offices and they're saying yes, and it's political and it's personal and it's emotional and it's business. That's tough. I guess the thing I want to bring to your attention, or you may or may not have considered it with everything going on, is your legacy. So how often do you ask yourself as council people, what legacy am I leaving? Because when this is done, no one's going to say the city manager budget passed. They're going to say council approved this budget. Usually the last action is the one remembered. So they're going to say mayor and council approved this budget. So if there are ramifications 5 and 10 years down the road that are a result of removing the Office of Civil Rights or the Equity Office, you're going to be remembered as the people who did it. Have you considered that? If you haven't, think about your name in history. My name probably won't be in history for standing up here, and probably no one else, but your names will be etched in history in stone forever. So I'm not even at time, but I think I'm done. Oh, there we go.
Latasha Black, Susan Spataro, and then Carol Guthrie.
My name is Latasha Black. It's my first time up here, so bear with me. So I was born and raised in Austin. So I've witnessed Austin go through significant changes from the rising living costs to the gentrification. And now we're faced with the proposed consolidation of the Civil Rights and Equity Department and the other important departments that's along with that. I believe that all of them should remain independent. I want to speak specifically about the Civil Rights and Equity Office, mainly because, as we know in history, with civil rights and equity, my people have marched, blood, sweat, and tears. So for it to be consolidated as if it's nothing, that is traumatic in itself. We are trying to rise as amongst the community and heal from the past, and this is nothing but a setback, Austin, setback. So I just want to bring that to your attention. I do want to put also that as far as the equity office, it started with no budget, no staff, and now it has a budget, dedicated staff, and has made impactful contributions to our community. And I feel like we need to be held, people should be held accountable for the wrongs that is committed, and we must address it in order to bring about change. So I want to go back and to put a little bit perspective on just the history of America, period. We've come, it seems like patterns are still continuing, and we know that history repeats itself, and that's what it feels like. So I would say that the American history is, has been about minimizing Black culture and contributions and Black achievements and being co-opted by white elites. I feel that such as, for example, Christopher Columbus claiming to discover America, Black Wall Street, and even the transformation of East Austin. I think that our heritage has been overshadowed and disrespected, and this is systemic oppression, which is the intentional disadvantaging of groups of people based on their identity while advantaging members of a dominant group. So again, that is also alarming. Consolidating civil rights and equity, and increasing police budget. Make it make sense. It sounds like we are being set back to the 1963. Please make it
Mayor,
make
can
sense.
we allow for Ms. Black to complete her thought? I really strongly encourage our community members to come and do this. I know it's nerve-wracking to stand at that podium for the first time, but I really appreciate that you're here, and I really appreciate that you're taking the courage and the opportunity to speak before this body that does make these decisions. Please complete your thought.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I think that we must recognize the broader implications of the decisions and how it affects our community, and we must learn from history, and we must strive for a better future where equality, equity, inclusion, and love to guide our actions. And we must collectively address the afflictions that have affected our community, both historically and presently. And I urge you to reflect on these decisions and let me read, y'all, my bad. I urge to reflect on the impact of this proposed consolidation and consider its implications because this is about our principles of civil rights and human dignity. So it goes deeper than just a budget. This is about history. This is about my people. And some of y'all on the podium, this is about it. And this is also a reflection of what Austin is right now because there's no representation of people who look like me. So I just want to let y'all know that it feels like a slap in the face as a Black woman, as a Black community member, to be slapped in the face to say that civil rights and equity and our minorities who have built this country to be consolidated, that does not make any sense to me. So please make it make sense. I hope y'all do the right thing. God bless.
Thank you.
Susan Spataro, Carol Guthrie, and then Alexander Soltero.
I'm probably going to be the only one talking this way. As I listen to budget hearings and I listen to a lot of things at the state, you know, what they focus on are the people who are getting the services or want more money, and I get that. But what you don't talk about is the people from whom you are taking the money, and those are the people that aren't here today. And so I'd kind of like to talk for those people. You have a community of activists, of course you should listen to them, but there is a huge community out there that are not them. And where are they today? They're working. If they don't have enough money, they get a second job. They do not commit crimes. They do not use drugs. They're doing all they can to survive here. And it is difficult. Rent.com in September of 22 said that Austin had the fourth largest outmigration of any city in the country. So while we talk about net in-migration, we're forgetting that the people that are working and trying to stay in their homes and trying to pay rent are being thrown out of our city. To me, municipal government starts with public safety. Other things don't count if you don't feel safe. If you can't go to a park, you can't come down here. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to a mall. It's getting that way in Austin, Texas. We looked at many of the proposals that you heard today, and those were implemented in the end of 19 and 20. To me, they've been an abysmal failure. Murders have gone up. Crime has gone up. I just heard yesterday that auto thefts, they said, well, auto thefts have gone up 34% in the state, but 64% in Austin, Texas. We can't ignore those things. And city manager, I give you credit for looking at this budget and trying to make it work like a family makes it work. I know you're having to do things that are hard, but there is not an unlimited supply of money out there. I think consolidations and reorgs are good if they're effective. I like the fact that you said a couple weeks ago, we can't just look at dollars, we need to look at performance. I so think you're right there. So I thank you very much. And if I can ever help you, call.
Thank you. Carol Guthrie, and then Alexander Soltero.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Carol Guthrie, and I am with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Thank you, City Manager, for the 4% pay increase. I do agree with that. We are concerned that our essential workers have been left out of the budget. We know that these essential workers are not first responders, but they are first on the job in a crisis, in bad weather, through COVID. They were here every day, and we felt like they should have been compensated, especially in light of the fact that in going through the budget, it appears that each sworn police officer will receive a $2,500 stipend. That's something that we can look for our essential workers. That would be great. The part of the budget that we absolutely disagree with is the consolidation of the Civil Rights, the Equity Office, SMBR. This does not make sense. We fought for years and years to get the Civil Rights Office. It was established with an ordinance. We thought that would protect the office and allow it to grow and flourish. And here we are today with the stroke of a pen. And by consolidating under SMBR, it does not make sense. The Equity Office was here for the community. The tools that they use keeps all of us in check. And of course, I don't have to explain to any of you about civil rights. We all need and want our civil rights, and it does not need to be consolidated into another department. Thank you.
Ms. Guthrie. Alexander Soltero.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexander Soltero. I am a resident of District 1. I am an educator at a Title I high school in Austin, and I've been working there for over a decade. I do work with students. The population is comprised mostly of youth of color. And I am here to support the community investment budget and specifically support the equity department remaining its own entity. The timing of this merger is terrible, seeing how our government has just recently signed into law the banning of DEI programs at state universities, as well as the Supreme Court just now overturning affirmative action. We're now seeing the banning of books and teachings of diversity and systemic racism. And regardless of how intentional this merger is, it gives the public the perception that racial equity is not a priority for city leadership, and it is being diluted within one department in which it may struggle to get priority access to executive leadership. Along with working at this high school, I also run an extracurricular club. It is a student government and leadership program. I have worked with current and former council members along with representatives where my students have the opportunity to learn about local government and the legislative process. As I've grown with this program over 7 years, what I've learned the most is that my students have grown and learned that they are part of a community, that they have a voice in a city. And I struggle to think how I explain our city leadership's proposed decisions to minimize decision-making power of the Equity Office in a way that doesn't reinforce what society is constantly telling them, that there isn't a place for them in government and true democratic participatory decision-making processes. I was born in San Antonio. I grew up and was raised in Dallas, and I chose Austin to call my home. I chose Austin because I always saw it as the most progressive and growing city of the three. And the harm that this merger does leads us to go backwards and not forwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I please? Sir, would you mind connecting with the District 1 office? I'd like to hear more about your extracurricular program.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes all the speakers.
All right. Thank you. Thank everybody that came to speak. That's why we wanted to have an opportunity like this. The next opportunity to speak will be in an afternoon so that those that it's more convenient for them to speak in the afternoon. And I'm off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the exact date right now, but I'll announce all of that when we come back and make sure that everybody has all of the upcoming work sessions and dates for testimony and speaking when we come back. Members, it's 12:20. Unless there's an objection, I would suggest we recess until 1 o'clock, take a break until 1 o'clock. And I don't hear any objections, so we're...
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, the clerk over here. We did have someone come up that said they had stepped out and we called their name. Would you like to let them go ahead and speak?
Sure.
Alicia, please go ahead to the podium.
Let me catch my breath. Okay. Hello, my name is Alicia Torres, and I am a part of the grassroots leadership team, Eyes for the Austin and Mujeres Luchadoras. And I'm here to speak as to why this proposed budget should not be adopted and to speak against the reorganization of the Equity, Civil Rights, Sustainability, and Resilience offices. Like many people have pointed out, this budget, like our city, is currently at a cross point in which we are being asked to choose not what, but who we are prioritizing. As council members, you have read the budget. You know whose needs are being funded and whose needs are not. The question is whether you as council members will succumb to the current political agenda pressure and vote against our collective community safety, well-being, and, well, honestly, any actual chance at actually living a dignified life rather than just surviving. This budget does not fund the everyday things that would actually improve our quality of life as Austinites. Things like alternatives to first response options, direct assistance initiatives for those in the most need to actually prevent homelessness, which is often cited here in this office, and displacement through programs like rental assistance, bill payment assistance, and other forms of direct family funding, such as the guaranteed basic income, and also things like parent support specialists, an initiative to help families navigate not just AISD, but city as a whole, given that a lot of the kids currently in our public schools are kids coming from the immigrant community that I work most closely with. These are the things that actually create a people-first budget. And this is not, the current proposed budget is not doing any of these things. So I ask, is this a budget that you can honestly stand behind? And really what I want to share is that I have had the privilege to work alongside people from the Equity Office and can say that it needs the autonomy that it has held. So please do not reorganize and keep these three offices as independent as the need for when they were first created, still, if not more so, is needed and present today. Thank you.
Ma'am. So the next opportunity for public comment is on August 1st at 3 o'clock p.m. We will hold a public hearing on the maximum tax rate at that time, and we will also allow for public comment for beyond the maximum tax rate for anything that you might want to the public might want to comment on. That will be at 3 o'clock p.m. on August 1st. The work session will actually start at 10 o'clock, but the public comment will be at 3 so that we can accommodate those that the afternoon is better than the morning. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I would just like to offer a gentle reminder that when we set the maximum tax rate, that doesn't mean we're setting the tax rate itself. So sometimes there's confusion in the public that we've preemptively decided what that rate will be, but all it does is say this is what the maximum will be. It won't go over, but it might be under.
Very good. Thank you.
Or the same.
Councilmember Harper Madison.
Just out of curiosity, when would be the appropriate opportunity to make commentary about what we've discussed so far? Now or after the next round of speakers?
Well, we're finished with speakers. The next thing we're going to do is have staff make a presentation, and we'll dig into the general fund at that point. I would think that probably is when we would have the discussion, as opposed to just having a discussion now and then coming back and having staff make a presentation.
I appreciate that respectfully. I think some of the speakers in the room, I'd like to address them directly if that's appropriate.
Then go ahead.
Thank you kindly.
I just tried to answer your question, but go ahead.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you offering me the opportunity. I just wanted to say to our speakers who took the opportunity to come out today that we absolutely appreciate your concerns and take them seriously. City Manager, respectfully, given the amount of interest and concern of the reorganization of our civil rights, equity, sustainability, and resiliency offices, I think this might be an appropriate time for us to offer further clarification as soon as we're able to. I think the concerns being raised are valid, and that given that so many voices, especially brand new voices who've never come to City Hall, I love that y'all are participating. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like. And so I would say that the dozens of organizations and the very, very many residents that are raising concerns with us, with the city, which, by the way, I want to just remind, when we say the city, you know, it makes it sound like we're all this one big conglomerate, but to somebody's point earlier who said there's nobody up here who looks like them, here I am. I'm the only one. I'm on my second term being the only one up here who looks like me. And so I definitely don't want there to ever be any, what they say, don't let the smooth taste fool you. I oftentimes do what I have to do as a policymaker. I never identify as a politician. Politicians will lie to you. I'm a policymaker. I'm going to always tell you the truth, which means I may not always be your favorite, but there's no lack of consideration. I just want to make sure that people understand that. I do think that we owe our constituents the opportunity to have their questions appropriately answered and their feedback received. So thank you for everybody who came and spoke today. I really do appreciate it.
Councilmember Fuentes.
Thank you, Councilmember Harper Madison, for your comments, and also wanted to echo the comments that you just shared. Yesterday, Councilmember Velasquez and I had a budget town hall in Southeast Austin. It was well attended, great turnout, great feedback that we heard from our community. But what came up quite a bit during that conversation with our community were the changes proposed with the consolidation of the Equity Office, Civil Rights Office, and SMBR. So I too would like the city manager to speak to those changes and the rationale behind it. It is a topic of interest from our community given the level of feedback we're hearing, not only today, but via email and also at our budget town halls. And then also want to share my thanks and gratitude for everyone who has come out, who is participating in the town halls, who shared their feedback online, who has been emailing us budget priorities. I am right there with you in understanding the level of importance adopting our budget is, and that it not only sets the priorities and shows our values as a city, but also sets the expectations for the level of services that our city deserves. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. All right. And I'll reiterate, we really appreciate that's the purpose of having these public comment opportunities and the reason we're having them. I also want to say that the town hall meeting that Councilmember Velasquez and Councilmember Fuentes had last night, it was a very well attended event, and so congratulations on that as well. I know other council members are also doing that in their districts, and so if you, as a member of the public, if you want the opportunity to hear presentations and to make comments, that's another avenue that's available. So please look to see whether there's going to be a town hall meeting in a specific district, because that's a very useful tool. Unless there's objection, what I would suggest is that we recess until 1 o'clock and come back in at that point in time. Without objection, we are recessed until 1 o'clock p.m. It is 12:29. Virtually, and we have a quorum present. With that, I'll turn it to the manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I wanted just to, as we begin the discussion this afternoon, to clarify some things that were said this morning during the testimony from our citizens. First of all, I want to thank everybody that came and spoke. I think this is part of what our process is to hear from comments from the community about what we may have gotten right or where they think we may have gotten some things wrong. One of the things that was raised earlier today had to do with the creation of this new department, which would include the three offices, which is the Office of Civil Rights, Office of SMBR, Small Minority and Business Affairs, and the office, Equity Office. First of all, let me just say that the small SMBR, that office has been at the forefront of opening doors in this organization for a long time, where historically underutilized businesses were denied an opportunity. And I think by combining these three offices, they'll have a great synergy to be able to make more progress on those key issues that the community is so concerned with. We will also take time between now and adoption and even post-adoption to continue to meet with members of the community. I've got 2 meetings on Friday, and I have an additional meeting trying to get a meeting set up on a Monday, so we can continue to hear the concerns of what these issues may be. But this process of combining and creating departments, we did this recently with the Budget Office. The Budget Office was standalone. It is now part of the Finance Department. But we see Carrie Lang as a budget officer, just like we'll see these offices, the Equity Officer, the Officer for Office of Civil Rights will continue to have an office title and will continue to attend department head meetings. So it is not a diminishing of their status or their authority. It, in fact, is just part of a larger organization. So I wanted just to clarify that. Also, we wanted to probably, before we get into our presentation, to talk a little bit about the anomalies within the police budget so that we can get that clarified, because I think there is some clarification that's needed. And certainly some the budget process is a complex one, and it offers that we can provide some context for why those numbers looked the way they do. And so we'll do that in just a couple of minutes. And in addition, we want to talk about also the rental assistance. I think there was some concerns that that fund is less in this budget than it was last year. And so we also have some comments about that will clarify how that rental fund is being used now, and we'll be using it in the new fiscal year should the budget be adopted as we proposed. And finally, let me say I'm mindful that the manager's office, not me, the office, presents the proposed recommendations to the Austin City Council. It is not my budget. In the end, this is the mayor and council's budget once it's adopted. We understand that. We're mindful of that. And it's really our intent to give you the best information so that policy decision can get made. And it's our job to execute on the budget as is adopted by the mayor and council of this city. And with that, let me turn it over to Ed Van Nino, Harry Lang, and Eric.
Councilmember Fuentes.
Thank you. Thanks, City Manager, for speaking to the restructuring of those three departments, those three divisions. One question that I had regarding the changes, without seeing the org chart or how it's going to be configured, is that the Chief Equity Officer is an executive level position, and the comments that was raised by our former and first Chief Equity Officer, Brian Oakes, who was on the call, who testified earlier, and his comments struck a chord with me in that he pointed out that having an executive level position, the Chief Equity Officer, under an individual who would be at a director level might take away from the ability for the Chief Equity Officer to participate in high-level conversations and be part of those meetings.
Yes, and Councilmember, that's a good comment. And though I've not hadn't had a chance to visit with Brian, the equity officer will continue to be an equity officer. They will continue to have all the authority they have today. They will continue to help us organize all the different programs that need to get organized to achieve those objectives. Now, the only thing I'd say is when you put yourself into a large organization, that lens may change a little bit in terms of what needs to be offered and how we make progress. But that always would be done in connection with and in visiting with all the various constituents that are involved in that effort. And so, but there will continue to be an officer, just like there'll continue to be an Office of Civil Rights as we have now. And so I think his comment was he would be saddened if he was the last equity officer that this city had. And that's maybe a misunderstanding in terms of the way we presented the budget. But I'm happy to talk to him to tell him that that's not the intent.
So with the proposed changes, it is a consolidation, not a merger?
It is the creation of a new department. There'll be a new director, and then there'll be an equity officer, there'll be an SMBR officer, and there'll be an officer for civil rights. And those three offices have to work with that new director to work through all the issues and all the synergy that comes from that those programs that are very related to one another have similar objectives with perhaps some different emphasis. And that's I mean, there's nothing.
And each division will retain
Their
their
budget.
respective funding, okay,
Yes, yeah.
and respective staff.
Right. Yeah. In fact, all the staff has moved over. No staff have been eliminated. Now, some staffs are, I think SMBR has been around a lot longer, so it has a larger staff, but that's the nature of what's already been approved in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no intent to diminish or take resources away or any of that stuff. Now, the only thing in terms of autonomy, but this would have been whether they're in a separate, independent, an office outside of a larger department. I have slowly begun to exert myself in my judgment where things have operated outside the parameters of the way I think a city ought to be operated, the city administration ought to be operated. In my judgment, we shouldn't be in politics. That's not our job. And I know there's some confusion about when I say professional staff. We are a professional staff. While we need to understand politics and policy, it's not our job to be being politicians or making political decisions. The political decisions get made by this body. And we help by providing information and participating in the discussion. But ultimately, the policy decisions and the politics of this city is driven by the mayor and council. And so, as I have found departments that I think are outside those lines, I have been gently saying to them, that's not our job. Our job is to provide a professional recommendation, and it's for the council to weigh to have their judgment in terms of whether those recommendations are accurate or not, weigh the input from the community in terms of what we ought to be doing or not be doing.
So in your view, are you suggesting that what the Equity Office and Civil Rights Office have been operating have been outside of?
I'm not suggesting anything. As I have been manifesting and exerting my authority within this organization. I haven't certainly not done it with that. I've done it in other areas, but I've not done it here. But I think part of this, the job that you guys asked me to do was to become more responsive as an organization, to try to be more professional as an organization, to not be putting council members in a political corner, so that you have no. We don't intend to do that. I think what we've got to do is not play the politics, to be professional. And I know there are people that are wanting us to advocate for things. Our job is to make a professional judgment, a professional recommendation, but to not be the advocates for something that we think is outside our purview. And that may make some people who may be doing that, I don't know that they are, but may be doing that, they may be, that's just going to be a different approach and a different emphasis. But I don't think it's fundamentally different than what we should be doing.
Well, thank you, Manager, for your comments. I certainly would love to continue the conversation around the proposed changes. What gives me a lot of pause right now is understanding the state climate that we're in, knowing that the state legislature has banned diversity and inclusion courses at universities across the state. For me, I'm thinking through what type of message does it send as a city for us to consolidate these three important divisions. And so, I just want to be able to talk through that with you and our community. So I appreciate your commitment to, having those community meetings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I just want to take a step back real quick from the meeting and just say to my daughter who's at home watching, happy birthday. Tomorrow is her 14th birthday, and I am just so proud of her and the beautiful, bright young woman that she's turning into. She's often here at City Hall with me, and so if you've seen her, you know that she's at least interested in what Mommy does, and I am very much looking forward to being the mom of a freshman at Westwood High School this year. So thank you very much for the recognition, Mayor.
Certainly, and I'll say to your daughter too, many times we're interested in what Mommy's doing. So I tease. Councilmember Harper Madison. You're muted, please.
I unmuted. Can you not hear me?
Yep, now we can.
I've had the opportunity to sit across a gala table with that young Westwood warrior And let me just tell you, we're going to have somebody who's a real fire starter, just like her mama. So happy birthday, baby girl.
Thank you, council member.
Did anybody? Yes, Councilmember Allison Alter.
Happy birthday, Rebecca. Freshman year is a fun year. I wanted to ask some questions about the organization. Let me start with the equity office and the other offices there. So I want to understand, so we are combining the 3 offices under an umbrella, and what will the status of the person who's over the 3 offices be, and what will the reporting structure? Because I'm not sure, I know that the equity officer serves in the executive capacity. I'm not sure if the civil rights officer also does that, but then you have a director over someone who's serving in the executive who's not on there. So can you clarify how you're thinking about that?
Sure, happy to. Oh. Yeah, happy to. First of all, there's a tradition in the city of Austin when offices are combined, that those serving in those capacities that were previously standalone continue to have the status that they had before. And we intend to utilize that model again. There was some concern that this somehow that these would cease reporting to me. Well, I came on board in the middle of February. These offices did not report to me. They reported to an ACM. And they will continue, so this new unit is going to report to an ACM. But it's in the city manager's office in terms of it'll be an assistant city manager that would be the layer between me and those offices. But on any issue, when it is that our office, specifically my office, needs to be involved, we'll be involved. And in terms of going to department head meetings, they'll continue to attend department head meetings. They'll continue to be able to make presentations to our executive staff on things that they think are important in terms of that sensitivity that we may not have as an organization. So that kind of work is going to continue. SMBR, the Small and Minority Business Affairs Office, even though because of the judgments that are being made at the courts, we're having to adjust that. And we made there was a plan, or not a plan, but an item adopted this last week where we're going to have to make some adjustments. But that office continues to be at the forefront of trying to open doors for business, for people who have just not been able to have the city contracts or city resources that they previously had. And the Office of Civil Rights people continue to make their complaints the way they do now, and my office will be involved when that officer deems it appropriate for me to be involved. So I don't really see any functional difference than what's happening now. Now, what I think will be different, rather than just reporting relationships, is you have 3 offices that have a unique perspective and a work program that is that are actually have a lot of synergy. And when we develop our goals, our objectives, and measurables of what we're trying to achieve in each of those units, they'll be able to work together to get that done. And there'll be greater cooperation that they have now. And they'll be able to work across the departmental, across all departments as they deem appropriate to make sure that we make the advancements that are needed. I will say that there are some things in terms of implementation that are near and dear to this council that relate to equity that we've been very slow on, even with an equity office. I can point to the example of Colony Park, where it sat basically idle because we did not move with the dispatch that the council wanted us to. Just the other day, I got a chance to go to Lakeside, which is the little community just east of Colony Park. We've had all kinds of departments go to that neighborhood, and fundamentally, we've not been able to deal with just basic sanitation, public safety, and code issues in an effective way with that community, even though we have been there. Again, I think that when I said a minute ago how I'm going to get involved, I want to get involved when I think that we've not moved in the way we've needed to move with enough dispatch and unity of purpose. And I think that's what our intent is. And again, it's not to diminish, but to add. It's additive, not diminishing.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification, and I imagine we'll continue this conversation in various ways. I did also want to ask about the Sustainability Office and the Resilience Office. being moved into planning, and if you can better communicate your vision and how they will be empowered to do the work that was envisioned for both those offices. The sustainability office, predates my time on council. The resilience officer was something that Councilmember Poole initiated and I co-sponsored. These are, offices that have been really stepping up as we're dealing with climate change and the challenges for our community. And I'd like to just better understand your rationale, what you're envisioning, and how you see this empowering them to advance the work that I think we all want to see advanced.
Yeah. Let me take a step back in terms, because one of the things that's a common thread with all these offices is that when you're out there as a single office with a relatively small staff, it is really difficult to not just get airtime, but to make the progress inside a large, complex organization, simply because you just don't have necessarily that capability. So I think one of the things is by combining and bringing into larger departments is to have a greater emphasis and greater really force to make things happen. With respect to but sustainability and resilience, when we begin the planning function that we just separated the department from housing so that we can do a singular focus about a plan, reimagine Austin, or whatever the right title will be when we get into that work, is that these two offices, resilience and sustainability, will be part of that process. And part of it is to not have something that sits outside of that plan, but inside the plan. And then we get the resources that are going to be necessary to achieve the objectives that the community wants. And I think, again, it's because that process in terms of sustainability, we started to focus in my office just recently through the budget process so that we could understand what we really need to do to move the needle. And I think now those offices being part of the planning department, will be able to have the right focus. We're working on a lot of different things that affect land use, but it also ought to affect the sustainability issue. It ought to affect how we connect across the organization for a whole host of things with the watershed department, with the water department, with the energy department. So there's things that we're going to be able to do differently than we've done in the past because they'll be part of that large organization. And our intent is to have a better system and a better approach to achieve the objectives that we need to. And so that's the reasoning. And I think that I've had a chance to talk to our interim sustainability officer, Zach. He's recommended a book to me, which I'm reading. I've recommended a book to him for him to read. And we're going to get together to figure out how we can work better together. And then, and Laura's, she's in our office now, and I visit with her, at least see her 2 or 3 times a week. So I think I'll continue to do that. And I think that they understand what we're trying to do, and I think they're going to understand what it means to play team ball.
And there are a couple other offices that were combined. So we have labor relations and OCMO. Can you also speak to those?
Labor relations, I think that's, maybe somebody can enlighten me. I think that's sitting wherever it was before. I didn't combine it. I wasn't.
It might have been combined, but there was an organizational
But the
change,
the office of Daniel, the innovation office.
That's the innovation office. I was asking about labor relations.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Rodney Gonzalez, Assistant City Manager. Labor Relations is still underneath me. It will be a part of Human Resources, which is underneath me, but Labor Relations will be a part of Human Resources.
And okay, I'll take that off mine. Okay. And then and EMS.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Ryan Alter.
And I have a question related to the HR, since we're talking about it a little bit with APD, and I can wait until we get to that point if you think that'd be better, or I can ask it now. I don't know what.
Why don't we see if some questions might be answered
Perfect.
In the presentation or combined or whatever, and then I think it'll be a more complete opportunity. So I'll recognize the table in front of me. Mr. Van Eno, if you want to start us off.
I would like to start us off, Mayor, and just a few additional pieces of context I'd like to provide in light of the community testimony that we recently received. One of them had to do about rental assistance. We heard from a number of folks about a reduction in rental assistance funding, and so The context on that funding was, of course, during the COVID years when there was such an economic turmoil and we had federal funds coming in. We were able to ramp up, allocate some of those dollars to rental assistance programs to help keep people in their homes. As those dollars dried up as part of the fiscal year 23 budget, staff proposed allocating $5 million of one-time dollars to allow those programs to continue. From the dais, council increased that one-time allocation to $8 million. Just last council meeting, council approved the contract to begin allocating those dollars out. So I think the actual number was $7.8 million. That's the contractual amount. We're working to finalize that contract with the vendor, and once that's in place, those dollars will start being expended during the course of next fiscal year. Now, I think there absolutely needs to be a council discussion, maybe here this budget cycle, about whether those one-time dollars should be made into ongoing dollars and how we're able to fund that. But the previous allocation from council in fiscal year 23 was one time. That contract was just approved, and the dollars are going to start flowing out in the months ahead and extending into next fiscal year. A couple of things about the police department budget. I know there's a lot of interest in that, and there is a substantial increase in the police department's budget. But I do want to highlight none of that's related to increasing sworn personnel staffing. There is, of course, 11 positions we're proposing in the training division related to the Kroll report recommendations and changing our approach to cadet training. So we're funding that. There is $1.2 million in the budget to continue the Kroll report work, to do the next phase of that work. That money is in the management services budget. So the money to do the study, as it's always been, will be controlled by the management services group to make sure we're getting the results that we want and that we have that separation between APD and the folks that are doing the study. But the implementation of the study, training-related matters, we did put that in the police department's budget. Some of the other factors driving the increase are what we call built-in cost drivers. They kind of just are what they are. And so in fiscal year 23, in recognition of the fact that we had such high attrition and we had such a growing rate of sworn police vacancies, there was a 4% wage increase that was offered to our police officers. I believe that was in around March. And so part of the increase is we now need to annualize that amount. Not in this current session, but the prior session, I think it was the 87th session, we were really fortunate to get significant reforms made to the police retirement system. They were essential reforms. They were reforms that lowered benefits for new hires and increased member contributions, but it also increased the city's contributions substantially. So $7 million of that increase is statutorily required city contributions to the police retirement system. And then you will see one speaker I remember spoke about the building services people being moved back into the police department budget. You know, what had happened previously is we moved our building services positions, human resources, a lot of the support positions. We moved the FTEs out of the department and put them into either the human resources department or the building services department. Those people still continued to do the work they were doing for police. And through our cost allocation methods, which we have to follow rules in terms of how we allocate these support costs out, since those positions were fully supporting the police department, they still ended up paying for it and their budget was the same. So that idea of putting the positions in there, it does increase the police department's wages, but it lowers their share of the cost allocation. And so it nets out to zero. And so I think those are just some of the things we heard from the speakers that I thought I could address. And if you want to get back into the conversation about the reorgs, I'd be happy to speak about our experience in the financial services department, about how we reorganized and became one single department. But I still have a budget officer, executive level position sitting right next to me who's responsible for the city's budget. And so I could maybe provide some context about why we did that in financial services and how it's worked and why I think we're getting a better result because of that combination. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie. Remember, today's focus is on the general fund. We've got another work session scheduled next week where we're going to deep dive into the enterprise departments. But Carrie's going to give us a review of a little bit deeper dive than she did last week onto the general fund department. We have a lot of directors behind us. Our suggestion would be to kind of do it in chunks. And so we'll talk about, is it community services first? We'll first talk about our community services department and then maybe pause and have council discussion about that, then move on to public safety departments, pause, have a conversation about that if that works for the
I think
council.
that works, and with the comments you just made, I think we're going to need to take a minute and have a couple other questions.
Of course.
And, yeah, I got him. I'm going to first call on Councilmember Ryan Alter and then Councilmember Ravela.
So I just want to follow up on one thing you just said there related to the HR cost allocation rules. Are those our rules, the state's rules? What were those rules?
There are federal guidelines. There are federal guidelines regarding cost allocation plans. They're called the Office of Management and Budget, OMB A87 rules. And so organizations like the airport and how are we taking the support cost and equitably, fairly allocating them out to the departments? We allocate out a fair share to the airport. If we allocated more cost to the airport, for example, to these staff that only support the police department, if we were to allocate some of those costs to the airport, the FAA, if they were to come in and audit our plan, would say, what are you doing? Those people aren't supporting the airport department. So the way we usually allocate costs is, for information technology, we might allocate out that cost center by the number of personal computers, PCs, that a department has. If you have a lot more employees and a lot more PCs, you're going to pay a larger share of that internal support function. For finance, it might be accounts payable. That we would allocate out that cost center based upon how many transactions you have. And so, particularly regarding federal grants, we have to be real careful that we do everything in accordance with the A87 guidelines.
And so as it relates to these HR positions, were they in the police department at one point and we moved them out? Now we're
Yes,
moving
they
them
were in
back?
the police department and their wages were in the police department. Then we moved them to HR, but allocated all of that cost right back to the police department, so it didn't change their budget at all. And now we're proposing to put the positions back into the police department. Their allocation will go down, but their wages will go up. It's a net zero.
And if we left it the way it was, where we continue to allocate the cost to the police department, but we keep them within HR, would that still comply with the OMB guidelines?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
you. But I'd like to add, one of the reasons we did that, council member, was the HR function wasn't working. We had police officers that were not paid overtime for overtime that they worked. The dedication or the focus of that office once it left the police department was under different supervision, did not work as well. That's why we made the decision so that it would be under the authority of the chief of police and that administration. We did the same thing with building services. And that was so that we would have a more effective and functioning area. And so that's an aside from the guidelines, accounting guidelines, but it was more of that's operationally why we did it.
Councilmember Vela, then Councilmember Kadri.
Of the $7.8 million in rental assistance, from that comment then, we have not spent any of that money as of this point? We're just contracting out with a vendor?
That is correct.
Did we have other rental assistance monies that we have been using prior to that, separate and apart from that allocation?
And Councilmember, I need to defer that to our housing department if they have the answer and are here.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify because we budgeted that money. September 1st it kicked in, but that was an August decision. And
Councilmember, I think we owe you and the council an answer as to why something that was appropriated in beginning October of last year, beginning this fiscal year, why it took us the time frame it did. I don't need to get into that discussion right now, but we will provide you that information.
Appreciate that.
Councilmember Kadri.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to it, so I'll make it really quick. But the UBI project, it's not being extended for a second year. Is that correct?
Correct. That
Okay.
is not being extended.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Allison Alter.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something with my colleague Ryan Alter's comment. So even if you kept them in support services, the cost, which is the thing I think that is concerned, which is increasing, which is part of APD's budget, would stay the same because you'd be allocating that cost right back
Yeah.
to APD. So they wouldn't have the FTEs, but they would still have the cost. So moving those positions around, as long as you're following the guidelines, the federal guidelines for cost allocation, you're not reducing APD's budget in any way, the way that that's being handled.
No, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of the shift, the only, I have some experience in this too because of the financial group, about 20 finance-related people in police, the people that process their transactions and payroll and time slips. For 1 year, they reported to me, but their budget was still allocated back to the department. The people that supported the department still sat in the police headquarters supporting them. The only thing, technically difference was their FTE count showed as part of financial services, and they reported to me. Quite frankly, that reporting arrangement of having the folks that support the police department report to me was somewhat of a disconnect.
Can you also provide us with, the year-over-year increase for APD and what you think accounts for that with actual sort of numbers? So some of it's the pension, some of it's the wage, the 4% wage increase.
Yeah.
Some of it is the 11 positions you said it wasn't the Kroll report. What are the other pieces that are driving that difference?
In just kind of big chunks, there's also was a one-time incentive that was part of the retention package for police officers last year, but the incentive didn't kick in until this next fiscal year. That was $2,500 per officer, and that's $4.2 million. And then there was also the cadet incentive was another line item. That was $2.6 million of funding for fiscal year 24 as part of that program of incentivizing cadets. It was a $15,000 total incentive paid out in 4 chunks if they made it all the way through their field training.
Okay, it would be perhaps helpful if we can have those details in writing so that people can read them. That'd be great.
I'd say look at page 315 of the budget document, and if you need more details than that, we're happy to give it to you. Those are the significant changes. It doesn't reconcile to the penny, but those are the big chunks, but we can give you more details if you'd like them.
Councilmember Ryan Alter.
And just so that I'm clear, kind of my concern is less about the top line number of the APD budget, but what the legal implications will be in terms of what information is and is not protected that we heard about from some of our testimony today. So I'm sure that's something we can dive into, but that is my concern, not on the function, but on what are the ramifications.
Okay, before we do what he said we were going to do, I want to recognize State Representative Cheryl Cole has joined us. She's also a former council member and mayor pro tem. So, thank you for joining us. Always good to see you. And now I'll recognize you.